How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.
this the end? There's a noise inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? Oh, I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. This is the final
We're going to war against James Lindsay. You keep James Lindsay up at night. I got to come and visit you in his head where you live rent free. I got to come and visit Carlin. Knock, knock. We're inside James Lindsay's brain. We're inside Chris Rufo and James Lindsay's brain where she has taken up a residence there permanently. And she's performing. She's doing shows there. She got a 10-year contract to do her talk show. No, but thank you very much.
What does I don't know. This might be coded, but I'm not sure. What does a Gnostic sex cult have to do with the far left's goal? This guy named Bot is going off about this Gnostic sex cult. What that?
And so we're just not going to answer that question.
Okay, so that's I figured that. So we're just okay. That's why.
James Lindsay is obsessed with lying to his audience. What crazy things can he get them to believe? He does it irresponsibly to pocket all that money from the mills for liberty. The left hates capitalism, but James won't admit it. He refuses to believe queer theory destabilizes normativity. Gender binary and the nuclear family. Change blocks the truth, smears people who try to show him. Creates an echo chamber for himself to reinforce his fantasy. He used to believe in something. What happened? Mills for liberty. Gnostic sex cult, building his own world. A Gnostic sex cult, one inch from reality. He's totally lost it. What can we do but mock him relentlessly? It's not a Gnostic sex cult, James. No, it's not. Stop lying to your audience. No, it's not. It's not Gnostic change. Mary Nardini tells us queer liberation means the annihilation of capitalism. Catch up, change. Whiteness means capitalism. Queer theory hates capitalism. Whiteness means capitalism. Queer theory hates capitalism. Whiteness means capitalism. It's all about capitalism. Everyone knows it's capitalism. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. Whoa. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. capitalism. Everyone knows it's capitalism. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, change, it's capitalism. It's capitalism. To pocket all that money from the mills for liberty. The left hates capitalism, but James won't admit it. He refuses to believe queer theory stabilizes normativity, the gender binary and the nuclear family. But James blocks the truth, smears people who try to show him, creates an echo chamber for himself to reinforce his fantasy. To believe in something, what happens for liberty? Gnostic sex cult building its own world. Gnostic sex cult unhinged from reality. He's totally lost it. What can we do but mock him relentlessly?
What up, what up, what up, everyone? Happy Thursday. Welcome to The Cult. The Cult is a little show that I do Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, where we talk about whatever I feel like talking about on any given day, whether that be the cult of the far left, the cult of the far right, the cult of the classical liberal, the cult of the socialist, the communist. I mean, the world is filled with cults, really. And you know, and my friend Andrew used to make this point before he ascended into the political commentator he is now. My friend Andrew Gold, you guys remember Andrew? Andrew's like blown up since he was first on my channel, but Andrew used to investigate cults, and that was one of the things he did before he got famous. And he used to come on my channel and say, you know, Carlin, like every group is really a cult, and it's just like the degree that the cult is. And I was like, you know what, Andrew, that's actually like a really fair point. And you know what? We should just embrace the cult. We should just embrace it. Yeah, he rose through the ranks of the classical liberal after, you know, it's kind of sad. I actually liked Andrew, and now I'm like, oh, I just don't know about you. But whatever. I don't think he's a bad person or nothing. I think he wanted to be famous, and so he became famous, and that's just the way it goes. But anyway, guys, we're not here to talk about Andrew, who generally I do like. It has come time, ladies and gentlemen. It has come time. It has come time for us to, again, listen in on James Lindsay's work. Because I warned James. I did. I warned him. I told him that he could keep whining and crying all he wants, and that doesn't mean that I'm going to stop talking about him. And it doesn't mean I'm going to stop debunking his work. In fact, many months ago now, like many months ago, I made James this helpful chart. You know, I like to be very upfront with people. I have this... You know, someone brought up on the stream yesterday, I was like, I don't even remember what the topic was, but on the stream yesterday, I was talking about some kind of like inside baseball thing where I was basically giving away my plans. It was like the joke. I was giving away the spoiler that a lot of what I do is, it's satirical commentary. It is real commentary, but I'm doing it in a satirical way to get people to engage with it. And someone in my audience was like, don't give away the joke, Carlin. And I said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I say the joke, because even if I say the joke, most people, the vast majority of people, will not actually listen to what I'm saying. And so it's going to go. Now, the people who are really into the joke and the people who get the joke, they're going to appreciate the fact that I'm saying, I'm doing like a, what is it, breaking the fourth wall sort of thing, like when your favorite TV character looks into the camera and says something to you directly. Like, I'm doing that sort of thing where I'm like letting people peek behind the curtain a little bit, but the people who are not all in aren't even going to hear it. And I generally find this is the case with people where you can tell people, you can say, here is what I'm going to do. And they just don't listen. And then they're surprised when you do the thing that you said you were going to do, because when you told them clearly and explicitly and even made a chart outlining what exactly was going to happen, they still don't listen. And then you can just follow through with it. And you're like, bro, like I literally told you this was going to happen. Like, I told you. Not only did I tell you this was going to happen, I made you a graph to indicate that the amount that you are triggered by me will be directly proportional to the amount of your content that I will stream and debunk. So if you just keep getting more and more and more and more and more triggered about me, you're just increasing the likelihood that I'm going to take a day off of covering the far left and stream your shit. And then I'm going to talk about you, and you're going to get even more upset, and that's just going to be the way it is. And you getting more upset will lead to me talking about you more, because that makes me laugh. And the world is a dark place. I need humor. I need levity. And if I can find levity through triggering the shit out of James Lindsay by doing exactly and precisely what I said I was going to do, and he just doesn't listen because James is not altogether hinged into reality at the moment, that's really not my problem, because I warned him. If you want to watch them, I believe we missed 3 other Are you serious? We missed more clips that James put up about me. Reagan, do you happen to have links to those? Because I just spent like the entire intro to the stream going through James's Twitter to find other things. If you have the links handy, if you don't, okay, you have the links handy. Okay, send me the links. Just put them in the chat. I'll be able to click on them from the chat, and we'll see. But I got some other stuff to go through. So this is something James tweeted yesterday. And I just think it's worth noting. This is a tweet of mine from a long ass time ago. Now, they never put the dates on the tweets. They never actually leave the part in where it says when I tweeted this, but I was wearing a crown. And so this, I think, will be in 2021. Yeah, that's what we're going to watch that one today. Yep. And so I said something like, I believe that people always choose to live or die, which is actually a very common spiritual belief. Like, we choose to be born, we choose the life we're going to have, we choose when we're ready to go. I think a lot of people understand that. I think a lot of people, think about a time when you've heard of a story of a grandparent who was on their deathbed, and they were obviously leaving, and they waited until all of their family got there in order to go. How many times have we heard stories like that? How many times? You know, stuff like that. And I'm not going to get into a big spiritual discussion. I don't care what people believe spiritually. If you believe something differently than me, then that's fine. I think this is a beautiful belief system. I think it's beautiful. And so James doesn't like that, though, because James thinks that everything that is not a classical liberal atheist is wrong and bad. James thinks everyone should be atheists, basically. And if anyone has any spiritual beliefs at all, then you are considered to be a Gnostic. We've seen this several times now. Even if you have a normal spiritual belief, I admit that my spiritual belief is not mainstream in the United States. I admit that, and I accept that, and that's fine for me. Guess what? Because I'm not trying to force anyone to do anything. But James says, my psychotic stalker did dozens of streams raging about the fact that I called queer theory a Gnostic cult based on sex, which she changed to Gnostic sex cult, because she's a Gnostic herself and has very peculiar, I can't even say the word peculiar. Let's go with that. She has very peculiar and evil beliefs. Now, James, I actually don't think it's evil to say that people choose when they're bored and they choose when they die. I think that's actually the ultimate form of empowerment. But hey, bro, you think everything that's not atheism is evil somehow. You think Archangel Michael is evil. You think Archangel Michael is literally the devil. You were tweeting about it for fucking weeks. So I'm cool with that. I'm cool. I also just wanted to make it clear that I am not a Gnostic. That is not something that I co-sign. And, you know, I'm just running a simple little cult here. I don't know what's confusing about this. My cult has nothing to do with Gnosticism, like James keeps saying. Unlike James, I'm not in a forced open relationship with my spouse where I force my spouse to be in an open relationship so I can go around the country and bang my groupies. So I really do hate to disappoint people. There's no sex in my cult. I mean, I guess you guys could if you wanted to, but not with me. I'm just running a simple little cult here, James. I don't know what's confusing about this. I actually have a big sign on my Twitter feed with an X next to Gnostic now, so I don't even know what's going on there. What else? James is desperately trying to get me banned. He says that I'm breaking YouTube terms of service every time I talk about him. He is complaining constantly, and I'm just pulling up these threads from Reagan right now so we can see what else James tweeted about me that I missed, because contrary to popular belief, I don't actually pay attention to James like all the time. Like, I have other shit I need to do. And so apparently I missed some more rage tweeting. Let me just get these threads up. We'll look at them in a minute. So James is desperately trying to get me banned off of both YouTube and X. And the reason that he's trying to get me banned is I'm saying things that James doesn't like. And James believes that this is targeted harassment. Now, here's the thing. I have made very, very clear that we are fighting James on an intellectual level. But we're also making fun of him. Part of our goal is to make fun of him. And guess what? We are allowed to make fun of him because James Lindsay is a public person on the internet. James's YouTube channel is like twice the size of my YouTube channel. James has 500,000 followers on Twitter. James is a very public person. James works with governmental entities. James works with publicly funded entities. James works with nonprofits and churches and stuff like that. So James is a public person. We are allowed to criticize him. We are allowed to make fun of him. We are allowed to talk about him as much as we want. And just because James doesn't like it does not actually make it a violation of terms of service for YouTube or for X, which is why I have not been banned and I will not be banned. Because, listen, man, there are people who make their entire careers, their entire channels, their entire online presence A-logging a specific person. The Kino Casino, which is, you know, relatively popular on the dissident right, I guess, they literally have an entire show built around criticizing Nick Fuentes and making fun of Nick Fuentes. There are so many people online who literally build up a public brand on criticizing and making fun of public people they don't like. And James might not like this, but it is actually allowed. And so James can keep trying to get me banned, and he's going to keep failing, and we're going to keep making fun of him. Every single time he does, we are the internet version of print political cartoons, James. Seems to me that you only agree with freedom of speech as a classical liberal when people are saying the things you want them to say, Jimmy. But then last night, or was this last night? No, this is this morning. This is like an hour ago. 2 hours ago. James is again posting about me because, you know, James really fucking hates this meme. He really, 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 really hates this meme. And again, Jimmy, first of all, I didn't even make this. This wasn't even me. But James, just because you're embarrassed doesn't mean that this meme is against terms of service, bro. I'm sorry. Just because you don't like that I'm asserting myself as the boss of you doesn't mean that this is against terms of service. This is a meme. James, you're lucky that I mean, really, bro, like, this is about as benign as this meme is gonna get. We could have been way worse about this than we were, and you've been freaking out about this for months. And now James is upset that I posted a picture of me, like, smoking. And let's talk about this for a second, because the podcast we're gonna watch for James is called The Propaganda of Telling the Truth Falsely. So let's talk about telling the truth falsely, Jimmy. Let's talk about that right quick. Because we can look and see that Psycho Frank took this picture completely out of context. And I don't really care because I like this picture. I think this picture's funny. But let's look at what I actually posted last night. Let's look at how I actually posted the picture. I said, when I look at James Lindsay's timeline and see it's all about me. That's what I actually posted. And then James's attack dog, Psycho Frank, says, for those following the Dr. Cluster B's stalking, grooming, borderline devaluation saga, she's now taken to making BDSM pictures of herself and James, as well as posting pictures of herself high while thinking about James. Yeah. That would be some curated truth there, Jimmy. That would be some curated truth right there. Also, I didn't make that, and that meme has been around for almost a year. So that meme was there a long time ago. And then James again is trying to get me banned. He says, it's completely unacceptable. And yet it persists. No matter how many flagrant violations of terms of service she commits. Well, I don't know, James. I think that Elon Musk is going to be okay with the picture of me smoking a joint. I have a feeling that Elon Musk is going to be okay with me posting that picture that you don't like and find so offensive. I'm pretty sure I'm good there. I mean, maybe I'm just making stuff up, but I think it's going to be okay. All right. Now, I do have to really point this out, though, because, listen, we have to deal with a lot of unhinged psychos. And I've taken to recently issuing new directives for my cults, since obviously you guys listen to every word I say and you do everything I tell you to do. And in that fantasy land, I am going to start issuing directives to my cult that make it clear my express wishes and instructions. And today I issued a new directive because, listen, we need to be punching up. Up is James. Down is James's psychotic, unhinged friends. And I know that if you're on Twitter, and I know many of you mean well, okay? I know many of you mean well. If you're tweeting about me, you will inevitably run into the 500-pound beached whale human shut-in that is Poetry Painter. Because this bitch has no life. This bitch just does nothing but think about me all day, every day. She does nothing but stalk every single person talking about me. She's been doing this for years. She's never going to stop. I am her entire world. And most importantly, I am the only way this person gets attention. That's it. She has nothing else going on for her. She is a 500-pound shut-in that doesn't leave her house, that is always on the internet, that has nothing but obsessing over me. And the reason I bring this up is I see you guys trying to interact with this person and trying to reason with this person. And I'm just, listen, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I think that should stop, because she's never going to stop replying to you. This is a lesson sometimes people have to learn the hard way, where I say she's never going to stop replying to you and she's psychotic. She will reply to every single thing that you send perpetually. Doesn't matter what it is. She will completely unhinge from any sort of reality. She is not interacting with the truth at all. She is a deranged psycho. We need to stop giving her attention. Even right now, she's probably touching herself with how excited she is that I'm talking about her right now. She is desperate for my attention. She is desperate for your attention. We need to stop giving her attention. Except when we can use James's association with her to discredit James. What do I mean by that? There are a lot of toxic people on the internet that hate James Lindsay. I could be interacting with way more toxic people that hate James Lindsay. I promise you, I know exactly who they are. I could absolutely align with them. I could absolutely be retweeting their stuff and posting all the horrible things they post about James. I could 100% be doing that. I'm not doing that for a very specific reason, because even though we are absolutely going to keep talking about how much James is lying to his audience, and we are going to keep debunking his work, and no matter how much he cries, no matter how much he whines, no matter how many hissy fits he throws, it's not going to make a difference. We are going to do this ethically, and we are going to focus on the things that matter. James is behaving unethically. James is elevating actual psychotic people. James is interacting with the most toxic people on the internet purely because he's pissed off at me. And I'm not doing that with the very toxic people that I could be aligning with to get at James. And the reason I'm not doing that is because I've been around long enough to know that when you interact with toxic people, you become toxic yourself. James's unhinged meltdown can be directly correlated with the amount of overtly toxic people that James has interacted with. I watched this happen in real time. James didn't used to be like this. He got progressively worse the more he interacted with toxic people on the internet. This is why I am so adamant about my boundaries on the internet of who I will talk to and who I will not talk to, whose shows I will go on and whose shows I will not go on, which influencers I care to interact with and which influencers I do not care to interact with. And it's never been about, can I reach the most mass audience to me? It has been about who is going to help me achieve my goals of finding people that are genuinely interested on an intellectual level of decoding and analyzing the left. And you're not going to get that when you're interacting with toxic people. This is why James's audience is so insane, all right? Because all of the nut jobs found their way to James's audience, and James kept interacting with them like they were normal people. And in the course of that, James became a nut job himself. I'm not going to allow that to happen to me, and I'm not going to allow that to happen to my community. So please, can we just stop interacting with these people unless we can use them as an example of James Lindsay having extremely bad judgment and making bad decisions, okay? I could have a much bigger audience right now than I do if I elected to interact with these types of people. And there's a reason that I haven't. And I'm trying to keep this as a place for everyone that's nice and a bastion of sanity on the internet. So I need you guys to work with me. I understand that you're defending me, and I appreciate that. But do not interact with her unless we can use her to discredit James in some way. Now, James is upset about this, and he tweeted about this too. And James says, allegedly, my deranged and psychotic stalker isn't obsessed with me. On her cluster B projection telling, I'm obsessed with her. If she can use you to discredit me, she will, though. Beware. Yes, James. Yeah. When you are making bad decisions, James, I will use your bad decisions to discredit you because that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. We are not going to get in the mud like James is every single day, every time he wrongly says I have a personality disorder, every time he issues a new rumor or smear saying I wanted to fuck him when there's literally no evidence that I ever even tried to flirt with him. Every time James does this underhanded bullshit where he is curating the truth to sit in his favor, every single time, we're not doing this shit. I do not want to sink to be the person that he... Listen, man, listen. Like, here's the deal. Real talk. I have watched so many people on the internet descend into absolute lunacy. I have watched so many people who used to be good people just turn into ridiculous, toxic shells of themselves. The internet does something to people. It really does. I'm convinced of this. It's a psychological phenomenon that I do want to study and think about and actually write a book about more in the future someday when I write about 27 other books before it. But it is real. And I've learned a lot from watching this happen to other people. I never want to be like him. I never want to be like him. I don't care if I give up millions of dollars. I don't care if I give up worldwide fame and acclaim. I don't care if I never have the biggest audience on the internet. I don't care. I never want to turn into what James Lindsay has turned into. I never want to be this. And so we have to put safeguards in place to make sure we don't. The attacks that we will have, the debunking that we will have, will always be intellectual. It will always be intellectual. It will always be about the content of what James is putting out. I will never, ever, ever descend into this world where all I'm doing is saying things like, you're fat, you're a narcissist, you just wanted to fuck me, you're fat, do you know you're fat? 'Cause you're fat. You should be banned. Can we get her banned? You should be. I'm never doing this. That will never be who I am. And if that's what you want, you can find it many other places, but you're not going to find it here. That's why when we debunk James, we do it intellectually. We do it intellectually by listening to what he says and criticizing the content of his ideas. That's what we do. And that's the type of community that I'm going to create. And it's not going to be the most exciting community, and it's not going to be the sexiest community, and it's not going to be, it's not going to be a rage-filled community. It's not going to get your dopamine firing on all levels. It's just not. But if that's what you're looking for, this is just not the best place for you. We make intellectual arguments here, and we behave like adults. So today, guys, we are going to be listening to this new podcast that James just released 3 hours ago. It's about 16 minutes long. It's called The Propaganda of Telling the Truth Falsely, which James is very familiar with. And then James also has this other podcast that he uploaded a couple days ago called Welcome to the Two-Front War Against the Woke, where I'm anticipating James is going to be talking a lot about the woke right, and I thought that we could get into that as well. And so, I don't know that we're going to listen to the whole thing, but I guess we could get into a little bit. But like Reagan has sent me, do you guys want to see what clips James posted about me that we haven't seen yet? Because Reagan has sent me over some threads that I haven't even seen yet. Let me just get them into the proper browser. James apparently posted more clips about me. And I mean, most of the clips that James has posted have been like such W's for me that maybe we should watch them. 1 in the chat if you want to watch the clips James posted to me. 2 in the chat if you want to go directly into the podcast, and maybe we can watch the clips afterwards. Do you want to watch? So 1 in the chat to watch the clips, 2 in the chat to go directly into James's podcast. Let me know which one you prefer to do. While you guys are doing that, I'm going to get this all loaded. Lots of ones. Okay, ones. Okay, fine. We're watching the clips. Let me just make sure I have these in the right order. Let's see. 21st. Okay. I just want to make sure I have them in the right order. All right. The ones have it. The ones have it. Let's see what James is talking about. All right. So these are from the 21st. So these are from a couple days ago, and late at night. James is apparently thinking about me late at night. That's just great for me. Okay. James says, "Oh my gosh." James says, "Why don't I just go back to ignoring my psychotic stalker and her borderline devaluation of me? Well, now she's manipulating my family directly for one thing. But there's a lot of backstory. Like her orgasmic delight in a fan fiction in which she burns me alive ritually." All right, for those of you who don't know the backstory on the fan fiction, it starts in April of last year. So every April in my supporter Discord, I get to pick out all the movies for movie night. It's a rare moment where I actually have control over my own Discord. And so one of the movies that I picked out for my April month of movies was Midsummer, which is one of the best movies ever. I love it. It's a great movie. Midsummer is about a Gnostic sex cult. James really should love Midsummer. It's right up his aisle. We dedicated the movie to James that night because it is about a Gnostic sex cult. And after the movie, John Morgan, who's a member of my community, the sweetest person in the world, also a writer and a creative, and we have a writers group in my community. John Morgan wrote a short fan fiction that was based off of Midsummer, in which I whipped James until he admitted whiteness means capitalism, and then we burned him in a ritual sacrifice, which is exactly what happens at the end of Midsummer. Spoiler for people, there is a ritual burning of a sacrifice at the end of Midsummer. It was based on the movie. Basically, no one read this fan fiction except people in my community because we were laughing about it. James has been tweaked about this fan fiction for a year. And I'm like, and I got in trouble for it, and I didn't even write it. But James doesn't like it, so let's see. So I saw, right after we started my community Zoom call, hang on, let's get this big. There's the fan fiction. So I saw, right after we started my community Zoom call, I saw that Poetry Painter had retweeted a screenshot of John Morgan's fan fiction. Now, I hadn't read John Morgan's fan fiction yet. I had no idea what it said. But Poetry Painter kind of gave me a little preview, and she said, "Oh, happy birthday to me. I don't want to spoil this for you." She actually did spoil it for me. It was very rude. But she retweeted a piece of fan fiction in which she literally beats in which she literally beats conceptual James with a whip. Oh. And he is eventually burned alive as a human sacrifice. Folks, this behavior is not hinged into reality. I will give you the link, and we're going to read it. We're going to read the fan fiction. So I saw after we started my community. Next video, that's a W. So that was good enough. Wait, look at. No, there's John Morgan. No James Lindsays were harmed in the writing of this fan fiction. James apparently now wants to ban all fan fictions on the internet. That's really classically liberal of him. So that was good enough, right? That was good enough. I was like, oh shit, the fan fiction must be great, but wait for it. Wait for it. Then one of the greatest moments of my life happened. I just don't know what's going to top this, guys. I feel like I've had the best orgasm that I can ever possibly have. And there's just no point in me having sex anymore because, like, I just don't know if it's possible for any future orgasms to top the orgasm that I've just had. James Lindsay retweeted her. James Lindsay retweeted Poetry Painter. And he said, "Borderline devaluation is a sight to behold." He's so mad. James Lindsay is so pissed off that a community member of mine wrote a fan fiction starring me in which James Lindsay is burned as a human sacrifice because it was based on Midjourney?
Midsummer.
James Lindsay's literally burned as a human sacrifice to the Gnostic sex cult. That he has missed the part where this is a joke. And he's gone right to,
Yes!
Carlin is dehumanizing me in a borderline episode.
Clip James! What the fuck? Does James even watch these clips?
James Lindsay is insinuating.
Wait, does James even watch these clips before he posts them? We're literally making fun of the fact that James doesn't know how to identify a joke.
Wow. That I have a personality disorder because I retweeted a fan fiction based on a movie.
Yeah.
Yep, he's butthurt. It's true. I don't like that word, but he is. Yep, the circle is complete. Yep. Mm-hmm. Because my community members have creativity, James. No, actually, Victor asked me the same thing. And John, this is the only edit I would make to the fan fiction. We should have put you should have put James in the bear costume. Yeah, it is rather amazing. It is. Yep. James and the Gnostic sex cult Peach. Wow. Indeed. Does James even know what a fan fiction is? I'm not sure.
Obviously not.
I'm not. Well, this is what I said, Adrian. I was like, James is just upset that I'm the Red May Queen and he's not the Red May Queen. I'm sorry, James. Like, you're not a girl. You don't get to compete in the Red May competition.
That's such a W clip. Wow. See, again, this is just proof that, like, James is actually doing me a favor, because the thing of it is, if a member of James's audience watches that clip and they don't understand what's going on, they are not supposed to be in our community. But if a member of James's audience watches that clip and they're like, James, you're freaking out over a fan fiction based on a movie, and, like, you're carrying on for months and months and months about a fan fiction based on a movie, they're going to be like, what the fuck is this, James? Like, this is ridiculous. It was a fan fiction based on a movie. Like, calm the fuck. Like, so what I'm saying is, if people actually watch those clips, the good people are going to rise to the top, and they're going to realize that James is being an unhinged lunatic. All right, is there any more clips in that thread, or is that it? Okay. Ba-da-da-da-da. What's the next one? What is the next one? These are all older. Because Logan Lansing and I wrote a book indicating that queer theory represents a cult mindset based on sex deriving from Gnosticism. I mean, my psychotic stalker took it personally and decided I crossed a line and started distributing crazy sexual memes about me, blaming me for them. Well, James, queer theory is not a cult mindset based on sex that is derived from Gnosticism. First of all, before we even get into the clip, queer theory is not a cult mindset based on sex deriving from Gnosticism. Queer theory is a far-left political ideology that developed in anti-communist communities and the punk scene, sadly enough, that advocates for the abolition of the gender binary and the nuclear family and the eventual annihilation of capitalism. That is what queer theory is, James. It's not any of this Gnostic bullshit. And that is actually the point of what started the entire war to begin with, that you were lying to millions of people about what queer theory is because you don't even fucking understand it. Anyway, let's see what this clip says.
And in the meantime, guys, I want more memes. Human Centipede. Human Centipede, this is your time to shine. Since James and Logan have told us that they hate creativity and creativity is a tool for the Marxists, I need you, Human Centipede. You are Human Centipede. You are our secret weapon. You are the meme maker, bro. Other people can make memes too, but we need you to really dig deep.
I need some memes, okay? I need memes like you have never memed before. And if you want to put James in a ball, in a fucking, having a ball gag in his mouth, I don't, you know what, Human Centipede? That meme that you DM'd me the other day that I was like, maybe that's a bit too much. And you kind of said it too. We were like, maybe this meme crosses the line. Nope. Because now James has basically given us permission to use that. In fact, why don't I just get the meme up? Why don't I just show you guys?
Oh God, what? I don't remember what this is.
What the meme is. Why don't I just show you? Hang on. I'm not going to dox you or anything, bro, but hang on. One last fun little tidbit before we go. Because we now have to just like take it to the next level. And since James has revealed to us that we're really part of the Gnostic sex cult, I just think that you know, James has really brought this on himself. He's really brought it on himself. If James wants to insinuate that I'm part of some queer Gnostic sex cult, then we need to act like we're part of the queer Gnostic sex cult. James, I just want to say, I said I didn't think this was a good idea, James. In fact, Stony Baloney and I agreed this might have been crossing the line, James.
I actually defended James when I shouldn't have.
But then you had, bro.
Yep, that's what happened.
Like, literally, James, literally, all you had to do was not insinuate that I was a secret Gnostic queer sex cultist. And the meme, I have principles, James, but the thing is, you're the one that crossed the line, bro. You're the one that said that intellectual honesty means nothing. You're the one that said it's okay to lie on the internet. You're the one that doesn't believe what the truth is. You're the one who seems to think you have some hidden knowledge about me. That doesn't exist in the real world. So if you want to play this game, bro, game fucking on, James. Game fucking on.
Another instance where I told James what was going to happen.
We'll see you soon. Bye.
This is another instance where I told James Lindsay explicitly what was going to happen, and he didn't fucking listen, and then he got what he got. Yeah, James, are you rebranding into, like, a W clip channel about me? Is that what's going on here? Like, once again, James is out clipping my actual clippers. No offense, guys. You do a great job, too. All right, and oh, wait, there's more. There's more. Hang on. There's another clip in this one. There's more. Let's see. What did he say here? Just clip after clip after clip after clip of stuff like this. Well, James, your hate watchers of me are the ones making the clips, James. No, there's a whole other... No, we still have one more to go. We still have another tweet, like, thread to go. Just clip after clip after clip after clip of stuff like this. My psycho hose beast stalker, oh, that's very nice of him, does this almost every day. No, I don't do it almost every day, James. That's just provably wrong. Sometimes for several hours a day. Well, James, sometimes you run your mouth a lot. Gotta put a content warning on this one. Guard your tender ears. But now, for some reason, the sex cult is projected onto me. All right, what did I say?
I know that you want to suck James Lindsay's cock. I do. I get it. All you guys are the same. I know you want to suck his cock.
Yeah.
I know you want him to like you. I know you want to suck up to him so that he takes you under his wing and he teaches you all the secrets of the Gnostic sex cult that only exists in James's imagination. I get it, bro. But really, try to keep up with us, because this has actually nothing to do with what we're talking about.
That's it? That's all I said?
I know that you want to suck James Lindsay's cock. I do. I get it.
James, you have been outed by your own stepdaughter of forcing your wife to be in an open marriage that she didn't want to be in so that you could travel around to your events and bang your groupies, bro. So is it really so out of left field that I would say that your sycophants want to suck your cock? Because that's literally what's happening, James. That's literally what's happening. That's why you're in an open marriage with your wife who does not want to be in an open marriage, because you wanted to go around to all of your events and literally get your cock sucked. It wasn't as though I hadn't heard rumors, James. I just didn't confirm those rumors until your stepdaughter posted publicly on the internet that you've been in an open marriage since like 2021. So don't blame me for the fact that you literally created the sex cult, James. You are the one that literally created the sex cult. I didn't create the sex cult. You created the sex cult. Another W clip for me. Okay, there's one more. Hang on. Wait, is that it? That is it. That is it. Okay, so Reagan just sent me those in 2 separate ones. Okay, so that's it. No more clips. No more clips. Again, another W for me and an L for James, and that's just the way it goes. All right, guys, before we get into... Oh, hey, I got a Rumble rant. Hey, we got $10 from Cardinal Groiper. Thank you, Cardinal Groiper. Hi, I appreciate the $10 over on Rumble. So, guys, before we get into another Debunking James episode, I do have a couple new articles up on the Substack that I want to make sure you know about. First off, Trump issued an executive order the other day in which he basically ended DEI and affirmative action in the federal government and in like federally funded institutions like public schools and public colleges and things like that. The public colleges thing is actually going to be really interesting for us, to be honest. That'll be a fun little project because Trump is basically banning all DEI in the federal government, which we knew he was going to do, but he's also rescinded President Johnson's order on affirmative action from like the 60s or the 70s or something. I forget exactly what year. And actually, this means that public colleges can no longer use race or any other identity marker in their admissions or in any other process having to do with the college. They can't do DEI training either. They can't be integrating this stuff into their systems. This is going to be a huge problem for a lot of public colleges out there. I promise you, I worked in higher ed for 10 years. I know how these systems work. I know how these organizations work. I'm very experienced in this area. This is not going to go down without a lot of kicking and screaming and trying to get out of it and doing all that stuff. It's integrated fully into all of their systems, I promise you, at a very, very, very granular levels. So I think it's actually going to be really interesting for us to be looking into public colleges, making sure we're going through records for that sort of thing, really kind of like focusing some of our search efforts on state colleges and their admissions process, what they're teaching, stuff like that, because Trump has just banned a lot of shit. And this is actually a really bold executive order, and it's good. So I wrote a whole article about it on the Substack where you can find out in plain English what this stuff actually does, and that's one of the things you can find over there right now. That is Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. Another thing you can find is, do you guys know how I've been screaming for literally years that CRT is still taught in the public schools even though conservative pundits tell us that it's banned? I've been screaming this for literally years, and no one listened to me, because they never do, and then I always turn out to be right, and then everyone is shocked when I turn out to be right, but I've literally been screaming this for 4 years. For 4 years. Well, a new survey proves that, guess what? I was right all along. Critical race theory is absolutely still taught in the public schools, and we can see that in the results of this survey. And guess what? People are starting to figure out that this is not actually about race, it's about capitalism, because one of the questions on the survey, so basically what they did is they surveyed a whole bunch of school children and asked,
how many times do your teachers teach about these topics? So some of the things they said is, we must be actively anti-racist. We know that anti-racism means anti-capitalism. White people benefit from societal advantages that black people do not have. That's a reference to systemic racism. Black people are victims of an unjust economic system. That means capitalism. White people should feel guilty about their privileges. Privilege means capitalist privilege, access to property, access to resources. But check this out. Capitalism inherently favors white Americans and discriminates against black Americans. That is actually one of the survey questions that is actively being taught in schools right now, and 31% of students answered they get taught that almost daily. Another 28% of students said they get taught it sometimes but rarely. So don't tell me. This is the excuse that people who don't like to admit that whiteness means capitalism always makes. They're like, Carlin, they don't actually think it's about capitalism. They think it's about skin color. So while you technically might be right, no one knows it's about capitalism, Carlin. Well, it looks like these high school students sure as shit know it's about capitalism, because when you ask them if they're taught anti-capitalist ideology, specifically using the word capitalism, they answer yes. I've watched over 1,000 hours of DEI training, minimally 1,000 hours. Most of the DEI training I watched was several years ago. I don't watch it much anymore, but I watched a lot of it back in the day. They use capitalism, the word specifically, in almost every single one of those trainings. That's how I knew whiteness meant capitalism. That's how I knew it had nothing to do with skin color, because I'd watched all these DEI trainings, and over 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 again, it was the same damn thing. And everyone said, Carlin, maybe you're right, but, they never say the word capitalism. No one tells me that they don't say the word capitalism anymore, do they? Do you guys remember about a year ago where they were always like, Carlin, they never say the word capitalism. Guess what? This sign right here was hung out outside a Seattle public school like 3 days ago. Ain't no one saying to me, Carlin, the left never says capitalism. Looks like we moved the needle on that one. And oh wait, I was right. And now I was right about CRT still being taught in public schools. And I was right that it is absolutely true that even several steps removed from the far left, high school students, their teachers, the people actually putting critical race theory into the public schools, they absolutely know it's about capitalism. Because when you use that word specifically, they say, yeah, we're taught that. We're taught that specifically. And when you learn the language for the rest of the words and you see things like this is an actual book. We've covered this book. We covered this book when it came out. It couldn't be more clear. The left is literally writing books that are titled, What is Anti-Racism and Why It Means Anti-Capitalism? That's a book. They're not masking this. They're not hiding this. They're telling you exactly what they're doing. The problem is, just like when I say something and no one listens, when the left says something, people don't listen to them either. And they just make all these assumptions based on whatever narrative they want to tell. And that's how whiteness became about skin color, because it was never about skin color. It was always about systemic racism, the system that upholds racism. The system that upholds racism is, of course, capitalism. So we were right. Everyone else was wrong. Whatever. And if you want to support the work I'm doing and be like years ahead of everyone else, like literally years, head over to the Substack, Carlin, KARLYN.substack.com. Sign up for $8 a month, $80 a year. You can sign up for free too, and that's fine. Most of my stuff is free, and I appreciate the people who are subscribed. But if you can support the work I'm doing, I am 100% grassroots funded by you guys. Unlike James Lindsay, I never took any money from big political organizations that have a political narrative to sell. I have no political masters. I have my own political opinions, but everyone is welcome here. We look at primary source evidence about the far left. That is all that we do. We do not engage in outrage or drama or clickbait or nonsense. We don't engage in political narrative building based on who's funding it, because you guys are the ones funding it. And the only thing that I have to do is show up and tell you the truth and show you the receipts, and you get to decide what you think about it. And that's the way I operate. So if you'd like to support the work I'm doing for $8 a month, $80 a year, I would really appreciate it. Head over to my Substack, which is Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com, and you can sign up there. And without further ado, without further rant, let us descend into the land of Retardia. Who's ready to go to Retardia? Are you guys ready to go to Retardia today? We are listening to a podcast that James Lindsay released a couple hours ago in which he is pretending that he gets to be the one to decide what the truth is, and the podcast is called The Propaganda of Telling the Truth Falsely. So James is about to tell us exactly what games he's playing, and we're going to listen. All right, let's get this party started. Oh, 2025, the year of Carlin the Goat. Hey, thanks, Nick. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, thank you.
Another episode of New Discourses Bullets, where I give a short bullet point like summary of a single topic relevant to woke Marxism that we need to understand so we can stop it. And I want to talk about a phenomenon today, or a tactic today, that I think is very important for dealing with kind of the political warfare or propaganda environment that we find ourselves in all the time. And I've kind of given a name to this, or two names, I don't know which name is better, and that is telling the truth falsely or being right wrongly. And you're going to run into this a lot. But before I talk more specifically about
being right wrongly. James, you know a lot about that, don't you?
I want to remind you that of that kind of iconic line from Beneath Sheep's Clothing, whether it's from Julie Bieling's book or it's from the film that we made based on the book. Julie Bieling had this line that communism marries a truth to a lie. So telling the truth falsely or being right wrongly is an example of a way to marry a truth to a lie. So what does it mean to tell the truth falsely? As it turns out, and I don't love this because this is the realm in which propaganda works, this is the realm in which propagandists take advantage of people, and it's the realm in which the woke kind of play. This is where the primary bulk of their manipulations exist, is that things, facts, words, statements, all exist within a context, or almost always. I guess 2 + 2 = 4 doesn't really assume very much context. We could say, though, that it does assume the context of, say, the usual addition on the group called the integers, or something like that. The point being that you can actually tell truths and be misleading about the context of those truths, such that you use telling the truth to tell a lie, to mislead. And you'll hear this a lot, kind of the signature that you're dealing.
Like that time that you said that Hegel is a wizard, James. I think it's a really good example of, well, I mean, that's just a lie, though. I think Hegel wasn't a wizard. That is actually a really bad example, because Hegel was not actually a wizard, Harry. But James said he was.
With this, you'll see this a lot on social media, is that somebody will put out something. You may or may not recognize that it's propaganda, but it is propaganda. And you'll say something about it, say maybe even that this is propaganda or this is misleading because, and what you'll hear back is, yeah, but where is the statement false? Here's an example that you run into a lot from what I call the woke right, which has kind of risen up around this particular claim.
Yeah,
you'll hear that communism is Jewish, and they will point to all of these either ethnically or nominally Jewish people, whether that's Karl Marx himself, who maybe was ethnically Jewish, although his father raised him as a Lutheran, and he denounced all religion at 19 and said that he took up with Satan, and then he joined the Communist Party, which is its own religious movement. They'll say, well, that ethnicity of being Jewish has something to do with it, and all the rest is a cover story. Or they'll bring up the idea that the critical theorists, Max Horkheimer, Herbert Marcuse, the rest of the Frankfurt School, were Jews. Well, if you ask Jews if they were Jewish, most Jews will tell you that they weren't really Jewish, that they had Jewish parentage and may have been raised.
James, the point that they're making is the ethnicity. So it actually doesn't mean, like, a Jew saying that they're not Jewish in this context is the same as me saying I'm not really French because I don't speak French. Like, my grandparents, they really tried, man. My grandparents really, really tried to get me to speak French. And it just never took for some reason. I can read in French a little bit, but I cannot speak French beyond like bonjour or like very little like sayings. But my grandparents really tried. Now, in reality, I am like 50% French. But this is like me saying that I'm not really French because I don't speak the language. I've never been to France. I don't engage in French culture at all. Is that true? No, James, I'm still French. My maiden name is Morissette. Like, I'm still French. Just because I say I'm not, and just because I wasn't raised in a French culture and I never picked up the language of French, it doesn't mean that I'm not French. And the same argument is being made in regards to communism being Jewish. Now, I personally don't care if someone's Jewish. I'm just pointing out a fact. Karl Marx was Jewish. The vast majority of the leadership in the Bolsheviks, in the Russian Revolution, were Jewish. The vast majority of philosophers in the Frankfurt School were Jewish. They were ethnically Jewish. This is just a statement of fact. I'm not making a value statement attached to this. I am making a statement of fact, and the fact is based on their ethnicity. And no amount of hemming and hawing and saying, well, they weren't really raised that way. Well, I wasn't really raised French either, James, but that doesn't mean I'm not French. It's actually with one R and two S's, like Alanis, and that's not my middle name. That was my maiden name. It's not my name anymore. I changed it. I got married. My middle name is my grandmother's middle name, though, which is I'm not going to tell you. You don't need to know that information. Sorry.
In some cases, but not in others, in Jewish homes. But the fact of the matter is that they are not Jewish. They're communists.
No, they are
They have
Jewish.
a different
They're
religion.
both.
And if you aren't
They're
ready
both.
to understand that communism is a totalizing ideology that overrides, doesn't matter if you're Jewish, doesn't matter if you're Christian, like don't.
Being Jewish is an ethnicity, James. It is not just a religion. It is an ethnicity. They are a tribe.
Elder Camara or Paulo Freire. Doesn't matter if, or God knows how many Americans. It doesn't matter if you're Chinese, like Mao Zedong or Deng Xiaoping. These guys weren't Jewish. Of course, the claim is that they were Jewish educated. What is happening, though, is they're telling the truth about, in a way, kind of with Marx, it's a little bit not the truth. And in a sense, with the Frankfurt School guys, it's not really the whole truth. But they're telling the truth in a way meant to mislead you to a conclusion that's incorrect. They're telling the truth falsely, or they're being right wrongly. And as a dialectical tactic, I know that we don't all love when I use that big word, but dialectical political warfare is the tactic, the technique that they use against us, whether that's woke anything. That is the woke technique. It stems back all the way deep, deep into the past, into something called the Hermetic religion, which is a cult religion of transformation.
There it is.
And
it's Gnostic.
one of the dialectical
Wait, are you shitting me? Are you shitting me? James is in the same sentence saying they're not really Jewish because they denounce their religion. And so they're not really Jewish, Carlin, or they're not really Jewish, you right-wing like dissidents or whatever the fuck. And in the same sentence he's saying, guys, communism isn't Jewish, even though it was almost entirely created by Jewish people. Communism is really Gnostic. Even though no one claims Gnosticism, James. Not a single person who was involved in the creation of Gnosticism claims Gnosticism. In fact, if I go back to these tweets that I showed earlier, You literally accused me of being a Gnostic in the last 24 hours when I have said repeatedly that I am not a Gnostic. I have denounced Gnosticism repeatedly. It is not a part of my belief system, but you've tweeted over and over and over and over and over and over again that I'm a secret Gnostic cult leader. So some people apparently get to denounce things, and we just take them at their word, and other people don't get to denounce things because you just get to say, oh, well, you're lying, and I know some secret hidden knowledge about you that you don't even know about yourself. And oh, by the way, ignore the fact that almost every single person involved in the creation and the evolution of modern Marxism and communism as we understand it today, they're all fucking Jewish. That's just a statement of fact. Again, I'm not saying that, I'm not placing a value judgment, I'm stating a fact. But we have to ignore the fact that they are all ethnically Jewish and instead say, no, it's really Gnosticism. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, some might say, James, that this gaslighting that you're doing is Jewish behavior of the highest order.
Techniques is to get you to engage with the truth or argue about they put out a proposition, they want you to engage with it and sit at the table and argue about it. But the whole point is to advance the false conclusion, whether you agree or disagree. And one of the pieces of bait to put you at the table to argue the substance of what they've said is that they tell the truth falsely.
They tell
Another
the truth
example.
Falsely.
Here's a great example.
Okay.
Donald Trump. Everybody loves this example. It's fun. Was sitting there being interviewed and said, "You called women pigs." That's what the interviewer said. And Donald Trump interrupts and says, "I didn't call women pigs. I called Rosie O'Donnell a pig." Well, that's pretty funny. But this is a very common tactic about telling the truth falsely. Donald Trump called somebody who is a woman.
You know what? I've actually been thinking about this a lot in terms of I agree with you. I think that James is trying to bait people in order to get them banned. I absolutely believe this. James is flat out calling for my banning on multiple platforms for saying things he doesn't like, but James has also been calling for doing a better job of gatekeeping people, even being able to have any sort of voice at all. And so I absolutely believe that he is trying to bait people in order to get them banned, and that's why people need to be really careful how they're responding to him. Unless you've got a burner account or something and you don't mind it getting banned. But don't fall into this trap. Don't take the bait he's trying to set you up. What I'm doing right now is fully within YouTube's terms of service. And I'm trying to be very, very careful, especially in terms of the Jewish stuff, of which we love Jewish people here. We don't allow anti-Semitism on my channel. I denounce that shit entirely. We love all Jews. All people are fine. I don't really care if you're Jewish. But don't take the bait that he's trying to give you, because he will take things out of context to try to get you banned. He's proving that right now in what he's trying to do with me, where he's trying to take things out of context, make them seem like they're against terms of service, even when they're not, riling up his audience to go and mass report people based on things that are not against terms of service. But James says, pinky swear, trust me, bro, it totally is. So yeah, everyone's got to be real careful about this. That's exactly what he's doing. James is a good classical liberal, and instead of making intellectual arguments or debating people that intellectually disagree with them, James instead needs to silence those people because he is not capable of engaging in intellectual argumentation and debate. Jews are great and amazing. We love Jews. Anti-Semitism is bad. The Holocaust was the worst event in the history of humanity. No less than 10 million Jews died in the Holocaust, not one less. We are not Holocaust deniers here. Not going to catch us in that trap, Jimmy.
Pig. And the interviewer did what's called a hasty generalization and generalized that to women. You call women pigs. No, I called this particular woman a pig. Do you see how they've changed the context? So in a sense, the interviewer told the truth falsely, or was right about something Donald Trump had said and done, but did so wrongly. The truth, if we did a fact check, the truth rating or the fact check rating of most of these kinds of woke statements wouldn't be true or false. It would be misleading. They are telling the truth with this tactic in order to lead you to the wrong conclusions. You see this all the time. If feminists come out and do something horrible and they're cruel to men and the whatever, and you say something back about feminism, they'll say you attack women. They've shifted the context, and probably some of the people that you're talking about are women. So now you're attacking women. And so now they can advance and say, well, that's patriarchy attacking women. That's misogyny attacking women. And the fact is, they told the truth. You did say something critical of, or maybe even hostile about, people who are women. But you weren't calling them out for being women. You were calling them out for being feminists. So they shifted the context. They told the truth. You criticized or attacked women, but they told the truth falsely. You've seen this before with CRT. If you call out any of the CRT stuff, they say you're a racist or just want to uphold white supremacy. Same thing. They will point to you saying that you're...
See, now James is doing... and this is why we do actually need to listen to James sometimes, because James is telling us the tactics that he's using, guys. James is telling us explicitly the tactics that he himself is using. He's shifting the goalposts. James is using Trump and the left to try to rile people up against people he doesn't like on the right. He's saying, listen, all these horrible neo-Nazis that are trying to tell these curated truths, they're lying to you just like the press lied about Donald Trump. And wasn't that horrible when the press lied about Donald Trump? And wasn't it horrible when the left called you all racist for being white people? And you know what? These dissident right-wingers, they're doing exactly the same thing, guys. James is using the rhetorical devices that he's talking about in order to do exactly to his audience what he's blaming other people for doing.
It was very common in academia, and they would say, well, he disagrees with scholars of color. Well, scholars of color is a term of art, isn't it? But that allows you to tell the truth. You disagreed with some scholars who happen to be not white, but you're doing it falsely, implying that you're racist. We see this all the time. If you disagree with in the LGBTQ acronym. In fact, the LGBTQ Frankenstein acronym was created specifically to be able to tell the truth falsely.
By Jews.
You say something about their agendas, usually to do with kids and how terrible some of this stuff is,
wrong.
Or some of the perversity that they've spent the last several Pride months, Pride weeks, Pride Day before that, dragging into the public square, making it more and more and more obscene. And you call out something like that within the queer theory umbrella, and they say you're attacking LGBTQ, or you are showing LGBTQ hate. They're telling the truth in the sense that you are going after this Frankenstein acronym, LGBTQ, but you're not actually attacking LGB or sometimes even T. You're attacking the queer activism, the Q, and in fact, the activity of the Q. You're not talking about people who are weird. You're talking about people intentionally bringing age-inappropriate material and or perversity into the public square, putting in front of children. But what they did was they told the truth, because
James, you're the one that's lying right now, because queer is not about bringing inappropriate material into the public square and sexualizing children. Queer is a far-left political ideology that is designed to destabilize the gender binary and abolish the nuclear family in the name of abolishing capitalism, bro. That is what it is. That is what all the literature says it is. You routinely ignore this because it does not match up against your political narrative. So in this sense, James, you're telling the truth in that there are absolutely some materials that exist out there that sexualize children, but you're doing it falsely because those materials are not actually related to the core functions of queer theory. You're lying and say that they are when you're just overlooking an entire section of queer theory that doesn't fit your fucking political narrative. Well, queer means whatever James wants it to mean based on whatever story he's trying to tell. So he might say one thing in this podcast, he might say another thing in another podcast. We've heard him do this song and dance a million times before.
the truth in the sense of the validity of that acronym, LGBTQ. If you believe in the meaning of that manufactured synthetic coalition, which they manufactured as a synthetic coalition specifically to be able to do this, if you call out the queer activism, you've now attacked the entire LGBTQ coalition, which is mostly construed to be people. So now you're homophobic and transphobic and all of these other things. So they're telling the truth falsely. They're being right wrongly. You'll see this in the examples for this are endless. This is one of the most fruitful forms of propaganda, and therefore one of the kinds of propaganda you need to be most aware of. And I'll just remind you, Jacques Ellul, a French writer explaining how propaganda works many years ago, explained that the people who are the most susceptible to propaganda are people who think that they cannot be propagandized, people who think they're too smart for it. It's not just that, too. A lot of times people think, well, the left does propaganda, but our side wouldn't do propaganda. No, I hate to tell you, and it could be the other way. If you're on the left, you'd say the right does propaganda, but our side doesn't do propaganda. I hate to tell you that you're saturated with propaganda and it's coming from all the sides. People on the right might be doing propaganda, but people posing as people on the right also exist. You have leftist infiltrators acting like they're on the right.
He's talking about the woke right there. He's talking about us. James thinks that we're all leftist infiltrators that are on the right. James also thinks that Nick Fuentes is a leftist infiltrator, which Nick Fuentes is about as far right as you can get, so I don't know how he's exactly a leftist infiltrator. But James Pinky swears, trust him, bro.
Say from the deep state. You have foreign influence operations from Russia, from Iran, from Qatar, from China, from other hostile entities.
Also, I'm still waiting for my Qatari money. James thinks we're all being paid by Qatar and Iran. I'm still waiting. I'll take my payment in the form of a crown or a tiara or something sparkly too. I'm not like, listen, Qatar, listen, Iran. Iran used to have a monarchy. Iran's got some crowns lying around. Like, I'm not opposed to like taking a crown or a tiara in the form of payment.
That are not in your best interest, that will do propaganda, that will be dressed up to play to your sensibilities, because it's when you believe you cannot be propagandized that you can be propagandized. And it's so easy to tell the truth falsely. Of course, I can't ignore the one that's like the ones I just described, which is that I get accused of attacking or hating Christians. I don't hate or attack Christians.
He does.
I call some bad actors out who happen to be Christian so they can tell the truth falsely. I attack some people who identify as being Christian, and therefore I say it that way because I suspect they're actually not. And then they say, see, James is attacking Christians. I'm not actually attacking Christians. I'm calling out bad actors who happen to be Christian or who claim Christianity as a shield. And when I do that, they can say James attacks Christians, so that everyday good Christians who don't really know what's going on can be propagandized into believing that I am an enemy of them through their faith. When in fact, what I'm actually an enemy of, if we get biblical about it, is wolves in sheep's clothing that are trying to infiltrate the faith. Jesus only talked about that like 30 times, by the way. It's extremely...
James, you are an atheist preaching about Jesus. You are an atheist. You are the wolf in sheep's clothing, bro. No Christian should be listening to you. I don't preach about Jesus. I don't preach about what's in the Bible, even though I've read the Bible like multiple times. Because I'm not a Christian. It's not my place to preach about Jesus or what's in the Bible. It's definitely not your place, because at least I believe in God. I believe that Jesus was a real person. I believe there's a foundation for Christian beliefs. I just believe there are other belief systems that are correct too, because I don't believe there's just one, but that's another topic for another day. But you are a fucking atheist. You don't even believe in God.
Important. It's an extremely important lesson in not just the gospel, but the broader Bible as well. You see it in Jeremiah, you see it in Ezekiel, you see it in Paul's epistles, the warning about false teachers and wolves in sheep's clothing is very important. But I don't want to digress into my own problems here. I want to talk about just maybe one more example. We can say, I don't know what's going on. Let me just make that disclaimer. I don't know what's going on for sure with the Earth's climate. That's a bigger question than I can answer, and I think our scientific apparatus is very corrupted. So you can say something. You can tell the truth falsely. You can be right wrongly by saying, let's assume that it's true. The Earth is heating up. And then you can use that to lead people into all of this climate change hysteria, which is absolute nonsense and a tool of globalists attempting to steal power and to enslave all of us. And I don't exaggerate. That's not hyperbole. That is what they actually want. That's what they're actually doing. But I can tell true statements. I can say this hurricane was the most powerful hurricane or whatever. Or I can say this winter storm or this month was the hottest month on record. I can tell truths. I never have to lie, but I can construct the way that I tell those truths to lead you into a misleading belief. That's another common example. So telling the truth falsely, we could come up with, like I said, example after example after example after example all day long. Another great example had to do with Trump and MAGA. When Trump was president in 2016 through 2017, technically through 2021, when he was president for those 4 years, people said that it made, like, the whole world went crazy. Well, that's actually true, but it didn't go crazy because of Trump. It went crazy because the media and the political class and the deep state and foreign actors and everything else inflamed the situation so that the world actually did go crazy. You can tell the truth that there is a potentially very dangerous...
Yo, side note. I agree with this, Liz. I can't wait to see what's in those Kennedy papers. Trump has just signed for people who don't know, Trump has just signed an executive order that completely declassifies the JFK documents, completely declassifies the RFK documents, completely declassifies the Martin Luther King assassination documents, and I thought this was actually really nice of Trump, he gave the pen that he used to sign the executive order to RFK Jr. Isn't that nice? But there's going to be a lot of crazy... Well, also, and people are making a good point about this, and I think we should be leery of this. People are making the point that the documents that might get released around the JFK stuff might be like false flag documents. I don't want to be conspiracy theorist or anything because I don't like that. But I will say that I do think that we need to be just moderately skeptical of what gets released because the feds are still completely corrupt, and who knows? But it's going to be exciting.
Virus out there, and that we all have to take certain steps becomes the lie that you attach to it. And so be on your guard for true things that are misleading. You have to take the extra step. That extra step is, what's the context of this? You have to ask that and then look for it. You can't just take the statement at face value. And I know you're busy, and I know we don't have time for this crap, but I hate to tell you, you are on a political warfare battlefield, whether you like it or not.
Yeah,
so
exactly,
you actually
James.
Either need to cut yourself off from all mass media and social media, which I'm not recommending, or you need to start learning to deal with the fact that you are in a propaganda-rich environment.
Hey, James, that sounds like really good advice for you, bro. You are a public person in a political environment. What that means, James, is that I get to talk about you. And you can complain and whine all you want, but every single time you try to get me banned off a platform for talking about you, you look like a censorious, authoritarian douchebag because you have not accepted the position that you're in. And I get it, James. I really, really do. I get it because there was a time when I had a lot of people saying shit about me that I didn't like, and there weren't nothing I could fucking do about it. And I tried, James. I tried all the tactics that you're trying right now, and then I reached a point of acceptance that they're going to be shitty, toxic people on the internet, and they're going to say whatever the fuck they want, and there's nothing I can do about it because I put myself in the position of being a public person, and that is just the way the cookie crumbles, bro. And you're going to come to the same realization. You can keep kicking and screaming all you want. You can keep being an asshole on the internet. But I speak from experience, James. You're just going to keep discrediting yourself when doing that. And you're going to have one hell of a hole to dig out of when you get to the other side. And you're pissing a lot of people off that are not going to want to help you dig out of that hole. And you're not only pissing people off, you're pissing really bad people off. Like, and I'm not talking about me. I'm actually probably the least of your fucking worries. I'm like the most consistent person that shows up, but like you're pissing off people that I wouldn't want to piss off. So maybe moving through the cognitive dissonance that you're going through and the mourning process that you're going through and reaching a place of acceptance that people are going to talk about you on the internet, whether you like it or not, that would be a good thing that you could do.
If you were in an environment where, it was raining, you would get an umbrella. If you were in an environment where people are likely to shoot machine guns, you'd probably be ready to take cover and you'd be able to hear the sound and know when it's time to duck. There are a lot of things you would do as preventative measures in battlefield situations or in circumstances where a saturated environment like rain. Well, you're in a saturated propaganda environment. And what you have to do is take those extra steps. You have to ask, what's the context here? Where are these facts coming from? What do they really describe? Yeah, the thing might be true that's said, but in what broader context? Is it false in a broader context, or is it misleading in a broader context? That's important to do. Another one is, where does this idea want us to go? Is there some path that we're being taken on? You have to ask these questions. Is this leading me away from or toward something that I should be wary of or concerned about? Should I be alert to that? And the answer is yes, you should be alert to that, because we're in a propaganda-rich environment. So this is a straightforward podcast. I don't want to ramble. I don't want to keep giving examples. I don't want it to be longer. About telling the truth falsely or being right wrongly as a technique of propaganda, which you are going to find is one of the most common forms of propaganda, because it's one of the most effective forms of propaganda. You say true things with the intention of leading people to draw the wrong conclusions from those true things. And if you're not aware that this is happening to you all the time, from people that you know to be enemies and from people that you think might be your friends in many cases, you're not ready for what we're dealing with, and you will get tricked. You will get propaganda.
Oh, someone's not ready for what we're dealing with, Jimmy. Someone's not ready, and that someone is you. So, all right, well, that was about as I thought it was going to be. Let's take a look at this other podcast that James released. This is a little bit longer. I strongly doubt we're going to get through the whole thing, but I just want to listen to what he had to say in this. He released this podcast 2 days ago. We have to wait for it to load because it'll take forever. And this is called Welcome to the War, to the Two-Front War Against the Woke. It is upon us. The fight against the woke is now a two-front war. On our left, we have woke Marxism that hasn't gone away. Rapidly and rising on our right, we also have woke fascism that Hang on, James, I'm not ready for you. Pause. We also have woke fascism that threatens to ruin everything we've accomplished. Listen, honestly, I really think the best case scenario is that we keep riling James up and we keep James in this constant state of being pissed off about the so-called woke right, because James has basically stopped talking about the left at this point. And to be honest, I've got a lot of content coming up talking about the left. And so if we can keep James in this state of being obsessed with the woke right, this autistic obsession that he has, let's keep him there. Let's keep pissing him off. Let's keep triggering him so that he stays over there, because the more James talks about the woke right, the less he's going to talk about the left. And while he's not talking about the left, we can come in and actually articulate credible and real information based on primary sources. And people will have to get used to this, and they're going to go through a process of being like, Carlin, everything you says is crazy except that I have video evidence. And so eventually people are going to start to see that we have all the evidence. James has none of the evidence. James is teeing off about this woke right bullshit that he's making up all the time. People are stupid in the short term, but over the long term, they tend to get smarter. And most people are following James because they want him breaking down the left and talking about the left. And if he's not doing that, they're going to start going to look for other sources. Hi, do you want to watch some videos about the left? Do you want to watch some trainings? Do you want to see real evidence? And we see this over and over again, guys. When people show up into my audience and they watch the primary source evidence, which we will be doing tomorrow and Saturday, they see very quickly how much bullshit James has thrown at them over the years. So let's see what he had to say.
Hey everybody, it's James Lindsay, and you are listening to the New Discourses podcast. Welcome to 2025. This will be the first New Discourses podcast of the new year. And it's going to be an exciting new year, I think. As a matter of fact, I think that all of the drama and excitement that we enjoyed in 2024 and all of the drama and excitement we enjoyed in 23 and 22 are just kind of a warm-up act to the amount of drama we should probably expect to enjoy.
That's true.
In
First
25.
true things James has said all
Now, I
day.
hope I'm wrong.
True.
I hope that when President Trump takes office, which may have already happened by the time this comes out, but has not happened now, I hope that after President Trump takes office, there's enough leadership and clarity of direction and optimism around what he is doing and is able to do, that we end up in a trajectory that I think a lot of us hoped for and campaigned for and voted for, a trajectory toward truly making America not just great and healthy and strong and all the rest again, but making America sane again. But that's precisely what I do not expect us to be afforded. So this podcast, I guess, it's a new year, is in a sense a State of the Union podcast from me, or address. I don't want to steal the thunder of the real thing.
A State of the Union.
And I don't feel positively.
Although, like, can we just talk about that for a second? Like, it's going to be kind of awesome to see Trump give State of the Unions again. It's going to be great. I'm very much looking forward to Trump's first. Trump has been like full of piss and vinegar lately. Like, he's like all fired up to get all this shit done. And so I don't know when Trump's first, like, the first speech, I guess, isn't a State of the Union. It's like an address to Congress or whatever. I don't know. Has Trump scheduled his first kind of like address to Congress? That should be in the next couple months, right? I can't wait. That's going to be great. We'll pop some popcorn.
I've gone around the country for several years now and frequently remarked,
banged your groupies
from stage, in rooms with crowds, whatever, that I'm probably the most optimistic person in the room. Well, no more, ladies and gentlemen. I'm extremely pessimistic in a room full of bubbling optimists.
Ooh.
I'm very concerned about what's going on, and that's the topic
this is
of
where
the
we want
podcast
him
today, which is going to be a little bit rambly, I think. I apologize. I don't want to drag it out, but I made no notes. This is completely off the cuff. I'm just going to talk.
James didn't prepare? I'm shocked.
We're talking about the fact that we have entered the phase of the American Cultural Revolution, which did not end with Trump's election.
Duh.
That we should refer to as the two-front war.
No. Wrong.
Meaning that we have to fight not just the woke left that we've been fighting all this time, but also the woke right.
Oh no, not the woke right.
And of course, what unifies these two is that they are both woke. And maybe, I think we all agree that the woke left is definitely left. I don't know that we all agree that the woke right is definitely right.
You're a
but
classical
that's a
liberal,
topic
James.
for later. I want to start with...
As a reminder, actually, I didn't show these earlier. As a reminder, James tweeted this the other day, and I just want to take a look at this. Real quick. James has this horseshoe where he has liberalism at the top of the horseshoe next to normal, okay? Normal for James means liberal. At the bottom of the horseshoe, he has cluster B as the marriage of communism and fascism. Now, we can argue about that later. Obviously, communism is not the same thing as fascism, because communism abolishes all private property. Fascism does not abolish private property. That is the fundamental difference. Nothing else really matters. But that's actually not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is this over here. What I want to talk about is, why is conservative over on the abnormal side of the horseshoe, directly across from socialism? Because James, in this meme that he's made, that I don't think he thought about that much, he's told us that liberalism means normal, and that means that everything that is on either side of this horseshoe is abnormal. So conservatism, which James does not like because he is not a conservative, is considered by James to be abnormal.
Are people getting it? James wants everyone to be a liberal, and in the same time, in the same breath, which he just said on that podcast, James is saying that he is the arbiter of what is and is not a conservative. He's calling people that are actually conservatives, that are actually on the right. He's saying they're all secret leftist guys. And the reason he's saying they're secret leftists is James's logic is this. Conservatives, or anyone to the right of classical liberals, which is abnormal on his own chart, he's saying conservatives support fascism. Fascism is the same thing as communism, and therefore anyone to the left of classical liberals really serve the communists. This is the argument that he's making. In the open. We're going to hear it in this podcast. He is openly telling his low IQ conservative followers that he hates them, that he hates all conservatives, and that he believes that everyone should be a liberal. He has said this over and over and over and over and over and over again. And he says that anyone who is to the right of classical liberalism is serving a secret communist agenda, and therefore anyone to the right of classical liberalism is not actually a conservative, they are actually a leftist. Does everyone understand? That's what we're about to walk into with this. I promise you.
This discussion by addressing a very popular, very incorrect idea. And that idea is that woke is dead. We elected Trump. The American people spoke. We said no more woke. And there are a lot of signs. You know, we have entities backing off from their DEI programs. ESG seems to be doing some major transformations. BlackRock is stepping out of some of its net zero investing. Apparently, let's just use that word, apparently, these things are happening. But let me tell you what my day-to-day is like, aside from the harassment campaigns, which are probably the worst they've ever been.
You're welcome.
My day-to-day looks like getting lots of texts, lots of emails, lots of direct messages every day, probably between the three, numbering well into the thousands every day.
Yeah,
and
I
this
don't
has been the
believe you,
case
James,
for
but okay.
many years, going back at least until 2020, arguably into 2019. We were probably over the 1,000 a day threshold, 7 days a week. Sundays lighter, but no. Saturdays lighter, but no. 7 days a week, thousands. And what I hear dozens of times a day, what I am sent.
I don't know who needs to hear this. But if what James just said was true, then he would not have any time to spend tweeting about me 8,000 times a day. Okay, maybe 8,000 is a little bit much, but James has tweeted about me in the last week probably over 100 times. And listen, I post stuff about James too, but I'm not the one sitting here saying, I literally get thousands of messages every single day and I need to respond. I'm not saying that. I do get a lot of messages. I get probably like a couple hundred messages a day, but like, I'm not the one sitting here, guys. Like, you guys don't know how hard I work and how many people want to communicate with me. And instead of communicating with the people who want to communicate to me, I'm tweeting about Carlin and how much I don't like her because she's just totally fat, bro. I don't buy it, James. I don't buy it for one red second. I'm sure you get emails just like all of us get emails. I'm sure you get DMs just like all of us get DMs. But for you to like position yourself as like, I just don't know, guys. I get thousands. You're so full of shit, bro. You don't get thousands of messages a day. If you do, you're sure as hell not interacting with them. You don't have the time.
Dozens of times a day are examples of all the woke stuff that we've been fighting all this time. 100% still moving forward.
Duh.
Just as much.
Always was.
Just quietly and institutionally in kids' schools.
Hey,
in school
James, if you're getting all these emails about all this woke shit that's happening in schools and all this stuff that's happening, why aren't you publicizing it? If you're getting sent all these thousands of examples every single day of all the secret the secret woke agenda stuff, then why aren't you tweeting it? Why aren't you publicizing it? Why aren't you drawing attention to it?
Words in county commissions, in county and city programs and plans, like Los Angeles. Obviously, Los Angeles tragically just suffered some of the worst fires in American history. The primary reason those fires were as deadly and damaging as they were is because of the failure of Marxist Democratic Party politics. There are people all over the internet blaming any manner of things. And you can, for whatever political game they want to play, but the fact is that communist politics in California and communist politics in LA County and communist politics in LA City set the stage for that problem to be the way that it was. All of the dimensions of it, all of them, whether it's forest management, whether it's water management, whether it was arsonists who are criminals, whether it was illegal immigrants who are the arsonists. It doesn't matter which angle you pick. All of it is downstream from the communist politics. And so what's Los Angeles doing with this? Well, they've got a whole new, kind of smart LA, kind of rebuild, new roads, new buildings, new smart meters, new all kinds of high-tech, left-wing, globalist implementation to fight climate change that literally they are blaming, but nobody believes is the cause. So the leftist agenda hasn't stopped. Woke is not dead. I talked about this on X, Twitter, whatever, nay Twitter. I talked about this at one point, and I said that what the left would do right after the election, everybody's woke is dead, woke is dead. Don Jr., woke is dead, he says. No, Don Jr., woke is not dead. Woke has been rebuked, but it's certainly not dead. And what woke is going to do is it's going to go into every single one of its current strongholds, and it's going to continue doing what it does. And if I had to guess, they're going to do all of it as quietly as possible. You're not going to see nearly the volume of insane leftist articles. You're not going to see nearly the volume of insane leftist activities like drag queens in front of children on full display. You're not going to see a lot of the overt stuff that they've been doing for the last couple of years.
James, I literally have stuff on video already for days from the left that they're doing. You think we're not going to see any of that anymore? Bro, we're about to see a comeback in queer Marxism, James. We're about to see a comeback because of all the executive orders that Trump just signed about gender and DEI. We're about to see a fucking comeback in that shit. You think the left is going to take that lying down? Of course they're not going to take that lying down. They're going to get even more heavy-handed with it. The reality is this. The left was completely pushing the queer and trans shit up until October 7th of 2023. The reason that they shifted gears and we haven't heard as much about the queer and trans shit lately is not that these people don't exist. It's been because these people have been focused on free Palestine, free Palestine, free Palestine, free Palestine as their primary recruiting call because they care about what can get them the most recruits and radicalize the most people to the far left. And Palestine is a really effective issue to radicalize people to the far left. So that is what they've been focusing on ever since October 7th. We saw a dramatic decrease in queer activism after October 7th. And now, because Trump has signed these executive orders around gender and DEI and all that stuff, it's about to start picking right up again because the left loves nothing more than being in the mode where they get to resist or struggle against the oppressor. We're also going to see more immigration stuff because the immigration stuff has been what they've been preparing for. But I promise you, we're going to see the gender stuff make a rousing comeback.
You're going to see a kinder, quieter, saner, woke left Democrat Party because all they have to do is be quiet and sane to compete with the insanity
that is unhinged,
that is coming out on the woke right as fast as possible.
Queer Marxists aren't in the Democrat Party, James, so that might be another problem that you have with your analysis. Queer Marxists are not the Democratic Party.
Which will be increasingly associated to, unfairly, I'm not claiming it's fair, increasingly associated to MAGA the conservative movement writ larger, and even the Republican Party. So woke is not dead. It is entrenching. This is one of the two
Hang
fronts
on. Tiffanel over on Rumble says, Carlin, remember that one meeting we listened to where the communists were talking about how the LGBT stuff is no longer useful for the communist plan? So that was probably the Revolutionary Communists of America, and the Revolutionary Communists of America are not queer Marxists, like, at all. They don't think that queer Marxism is really Marxism. So I would caution you against judging all Marxist groups based on that philosophy, because the Revolutionary Communists of America are already getting infiltrated by queer Marxists. They absolutely have queer Marxists among their, and a lot of the most hardcore leftist activists in the country are queer Marxists, and so they've been focusing on the Palestine stuff. Like, I can point, like, Sophie fucking Lewis started learning Arabic to be in solidarity with the comrades. They just haven't been doing as much of the core stuff they normally do because Palestine became their number one issue. But you cannot judge the entire left based on the Revolutionary Communists of America believing that they're not being co-opted by queer Marxists when they're absolutely being co-opted by queer Marxists. That's the way it goes. Nope. The fact that you think that we're both right is a reflection of the fact that you have not listened to the left to the degree that you need to. I don't recognize you. Are you new here? Let me see. Yeah, you seem to be brand new here. So I'm going to recommend that you stick around and you listen to the left, because when you listen to the far left, the real far left, you're going to realize how wrong this is. Welcome. Rottweiler, thank you for the super chat. 22 state senators are already suing over Trump's executive orders. People still don't see the pendulum swing back hard enough. They're taking for granted Republicans will win in 2029, but I think the right is taking a lot of things for granted right now. I think the right is generally not paying attention. And I guess we'll see what happens. Well, we'll see who inevitably ends up being proven right. I've got a pretty good track record. We'll see. The RCA is not brand new. The RCA has been around for a long time. They're not brand new. They just rebranded a couple years ago, but they are not they've been around since like 1992. They were the International Marxist Tendency before they became the Revolutionary Communists of America, so they're not new.
War, and it's this weird front because all of the work is this kind of like difficult, slow policy work. It's litigation. It's working on, getting into positions like we were before, getting on county commissions, getting in school boards, trying to change policy and to recognize that personnel is still policy, and to get good people who are willing to serve, who understand America and the American values and the American system into place to serve those communities and to keep at bay the radicals on the left. And we have a lot of that to do. And a lot of it's on the ground, nitty gritty, difficult work. Again, it's not going to be the big fun, flashy expose that it's been on social media for the last few years. Not so much. It's going to be difficult, detailed policy work and personnel work and litigation work to start trying to make these changes. It's going to be still outreach and education work. For example, I recently spoke with the Heritage Foundation, and I urged them. We were talking about what institution, what's the institutional battle in the trans fight, in gender ideology fight going forward look like. And I reminded them or informed them that, in my opinion, the institution that we're not thinking about, that we should be thinking about, and that the left thinks about, and the left is thinking about, and the left is acting on the thinking that they're doing about it, is the judiciary. There are organizations that is actually providing information to judges and explicitly training judges on the bogus, fake pseudoscience that they use to advance the transgender ideology. Why? So that when it comes to court and one of these cases comes up and somebody is suing, whether it's medical malpractice, whether it's a state defending a ban on pediatric gender medicine, as it incorrectly gets called, mutilation is a better word. The judge will hear, we say X.
Well, your chat history does not reflect that. And most people who have been around for a while on my channel have chatted in. So if you've actually been around for a while, I'm going to beat this blunt. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. If you want to prove to me that you've been around for a while, you can prove that to me by telling me how the far left defines capitalism. We'll wait for that. But mostly, I think that your analysis is really unhinged from the majority of content that I create, because most people who watch my content would not have the perspective that you have, that both people are right, because it's not hinged into reality. So my recommendation is that you watch more socialist content with us so that you can hinge yourself into reality. And as part of that, my strong recommendation is that you actually participate in the chat in a good faith way so that you are learning concepts. But I would love to hear from you. What's the far left's definition of capitalism? Because I want to know if you've actually been around. So tell me, what is the far left's definition of capitalism? We'll wait for a second. No one else answer. It's always suspicious when someone shows up in my chat and they're saying they've been around forever when they have no chat history. And the way we find out who's real and who's not is by asking them how the far left defines capitalism. Because people who've legitimately been watching my content for a long time know how the far left defines capitalism. People who are trying to pretend that they've been in my audience for a long time don't know how to define capitalism. So we're waiting. Stop the whole stream just for this. We are waiting. We are waiting. Do 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 do. G Mama, we're waiting for your answer, girl. We are waiting. How does the left define capitalism? This is an easy answer for people who've been here for a long time. She's gone? Oh, well, we know the answer to that one then.
XYZ study, blah, 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 the Cass report, maybe one of these famous things, the WPATH files, and the judge immediately says that's been discredited. These are stories of things that I'm hearing happening. And the reason, even though the judge isn't really supposed to be doing that and is supposed to hear out the experts, the reason is because the left is going around and training judges. We're not training judges. Why are we not reaching out to judges to get them informed on things like the Cass report and get them to actually read the WPATH files and get them to actually see that WPATH is in disarray, or the WPATH tapes, as they were called, or I think that was released from the Daily Caller by Megan Brock. WPATH files was Mia Hughes with Michael Schellenberger, was a little bit more famous. These are things that we could be doing. These are the kinds of in-depth, like, outreach, policy, litigation work that we need to be doing. But woke is not dead. Every day I get messages from people who work in government jobs, as a matter of fact. Government jobs in various departments and agencies. Not like big fun thing, not like the Pentagon, not like the DOJ. But, you know, like at a job at a national park or something to that effect, right? And every day what they tell me is woke isn't dead. It's digging its claws in so that it won't be able to be removed no matter what Trump does. It is digging in, it is burrowing in, boring from within to make sure that it survives.
All right, well, G-Mama's 63, so we'll cut you a little bit of slack. Okay, capitalism is defined as private property ownership. I hope you're telling the truth. I really do. I hope you're telling the truth. But again, hang out, watch with us. There are older people that watch my content. You'll see.
This administration, which I'm sure they believe is just a temporary halt in their agenda, a temporary diversion from plans as they saw with Trump's first term. So everywhere I'm hearing, my day-to-day is message after message after message, just like it's always been, of examples of woke left being implemented everywhere still in our society. It's just not all over the news. It's just not all up in your face. And instead, what you're seeing is this very crafty thing. Remember I mentioned this idea that, all these institutions are backing off from DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion's on the way out. Thank you, actually, and I do mean it, thank you people like Robbie Starbuck and Chris Rufo who've been fighting the fight against the institutions.
Yeah, okay, whatever, James. Is James right that property includes whiteness? No, whiteness is property. Whiteness is capitalism. Capitalism is private property. Property doesn't include whiteness. Whiteness is property. Whiteness is the ownership of private property. That's what makes the systemic disparities. Systemic racism is the idea that some key demographics own more private property than other people. They have more access to money. They have more access to resources. That's what the disparity is. So no, James is not right that property includes whiteness, because he's got it twisted. Whiteness is property. Whiteness is wealth. Whiteness is the ability to own a home. Whiteness is the ability to own a business. Whiteness is that, I mean, this is why they burned down like black-owned businesses in Minneapolis during the Black Lives Matter riots, because Black Lives Matter is a Marxist organization. The activists were all far-left revolutionary socialists. They don't want black people owning businesses. Had nothing to do with their skin color. They just don't want them owning businesses, because whiteness is property.
They're getting rid of DEI. That's a win. Well, actually, they're renaming it things like Access, Community, and Belonging, ACB.
True.
That's real. That's actually true.
One of the things.
They're calling it Inclusive Excellence in some other places. In other words, they're not getting rid of it at all. They're rebranding it and then putting out the headline, "We got rid of it, so please leave us alone."
True. That is going to happen.
And so what they're doing is going within their strongholds and entrenching. And their strongholds include academia. They include education. That's P through 20, not just K through 12, all the way preschool up through PhD. They hold blue states. They hold foreign countries. The woke left holds the power in foreign countries: Canada, New Zealand, Australia, Great Britain. Anybody with Keir Starmer? And we could go on. I mean, there's the huge fight even in countries like Poland, where the left party was the ones that took power in the previous election. We have these challenges, whether it's this kind of very scary woke right character who suddenly rose to prominence in Romania that then got nullified in some weird action by the EU, or whether it's that I think AfD is rising in Germany and the EU is trying to nullify that too, despite it not being as questionable a circumstance. This is what my point isn't about these details. I'm not talking about these specific issues, by the way. My point is that the left, everywhere that it holds power, is entrenching that power. The Biden administration, since the election, has been going step by step by step by step to make sure things will be very, very hard for Trump to undo. Biden said himself that he was making preemptive pardons and all of this stuff for anybody that Trump was naming, just in case Trump had plans to be able to prosecute people. So they're trying to make it extremely difficult. They are entrenching, they're fortifying. That's a good word for the left. That's what they did in the 2020 election. They said it was fortified the election. Now they're fortifying every institution they control. And that's exactly what is to be expected. They're subversives, they're infiltrators. They don't do a lot of going force on force. They go around force. They hit a wall, they go somewhere else. But the battle for your children isn't exactly going to go away. They're going to continue with that. So the schools and everything else. And like I said, this is my day-to-day. So I know all the woke stuff is still there. I know the ESG is still there. They call no, they're backing off ESG, James. That's what you see in the headlines, just like DEI. because
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly right. James isn't talking about the Marxist left. He's talking about the Democrats and the progressives. He's not talking about the Marxist left at all. You know what? This is actually a really good idea. We are going to do this, 100%.
they call it transition investing now. It's the same thing. And they're kind of backing off of some of it, and they're kind of not backing off some of it. Some of it is real wins, and we need to keep pushing. Some of it's not. This stuff about antitrust hitting them is really actually disrupting their game, so we need a lot more antitrust kind of stuff.
It's not
That's hard work,
disrupting
by
their
the way.
game at
That's
all,
not fun
actually, but-
culture war bullcrap and big flashy stuff on the internet. And oh my God, did you see this video of this guy in front of a kid? It's not that kind of work anymore on the left. That's the left front of this war. And I said it's a two-front war now. We'll get to that. It's all this stuff. So ESG transition investing now, and they're going to continue as much of it as they can. They're going to retool. Larry Fink, if I'm not mistaken, somebody told me this, so I haven't checked the quote, but if I'm not mistaken, Larry Fink commented at some point before the election that he didn't care really what happened because it didn't really make much of a difference for him and what he intended to do. So yeah, it cost them some trouble to rebrand or whatever else. But in large part, they're doing most of the same stuff. And in foreign countries, they're going to do exactly the same stuff. So now we have Trump entering into the White House, which has gone shockingly smoothly since the election. Very little pushback. He seems to be getting all these huge wins without even having stepped into office yet, despite this obvious resistance by the Biden administration. Something's going on. So he's going to transition into the White House. He's going to be president again. And there's all these power centers that they have. Wouldn't it benefit them to disrupt his presidency by making all kinds of messes he has to clean up?
Yeah, they're going to do that.
Fires or wars or
They're
whatever
gonna
else.
do
I don't
that.
know if that's going to happen. I'm making no prediction. But I know that they have the power to do that, to disrupt however long it is that Trump has to govern.
They are absolutely
Everybody
gonna
kind
do
of
that.
agrees. He's got the House and the Senate. Everybody kind of agrees that the first 100 days are going to be a kind of clear path, supposing his team is in place. But after that, the House already starts getting itchy about running for their re-elections for the 2026 election campaign cycle. A third of the Senate is up in that midterm election. So they start getting itchy too. So all of a sudden there's some distractions. So those first 100 days are kind of like a clear runway for him to do a lot of stuff where he can really hopefully flex and govern. And there's not too many of these messes.
Yeah, I kind of think the same thing, honestly. Like, the more we listen to James's long form podcast, the more I'm like, there is no fucking way people are actually sitting through this and listening to it. Like, they're not really listening to it. I would love to see his analytics on like how far people actually get into these videos, because he doesn't actually say anything. He literally doesn't say anything. Although there is a part of me that thinks that people don't want to do the work investigating the left like we do. Like, they just want it explained to them. And so I guess maybe there's something about the fact that, like, they get to spend a couple hours with James every week and he tells them things and they don't understand it and they don't retain the knowledge. But so we'll listen. I want to hear when he gets to the woke right stuff, because that's really what I'm interested in. But honestly, I'm really glad I have my knitting to amuse me at the moment.
Is being made by the left here and there and all over. And that's the global left, by the way, which includes China, which includes Russia. You can pretend all you want that Russia's not still deeply embedded in leftist subversion, but it is. It's very active in that. You have been exposed to it. I promise you, you have been exposed to it and its machinations, particularly against the right wing, today probably on social media. As a matter of fact, they're very active there. They're running a lot of operations. Sooner or later, people will know about it. I don't know if they'll believe it, but it is what it is. So you have this question about the 100 days that he's going to how much is he going to get done? Well, we hope a lot, but Doge has to be tested. That's the Department of Government Efficiency. That's to be tested.
It's not a real
Obviously, you
department.
saw over Christmas, though, some very weird H-1B visa debacle came out. Guess what? James called it a psyops. That's me. I called it a psyops from the get-go. I said the point of this is to interrupt MAGA, to split MAGA, actually, and that it was to shatter the coalition by introducing racist elements and like crazy extremist ideas about immigration that most of the people who voted for Trump wouldn't have recognized 15 minutes before it started. But it was also designed to crush the ability of Doge to be as effective as it was. It was also designed to put a wedge between Trump and Elon Musk, Trump and Vivek Ramaswamy, and how much of that has been successful is an open question. But if people are willing to drive that wedge, certainly Steve Bannon has declared open political war on Elon Musk, which is to say, therefore, that aspect of the Trump administration that Elon is heading up,
So
which
Steve
is Doge,
Bannon is the woke
and the
right?
collaboration
Yeah,
that they have, and which also therefore means a sector of Trump's administration itself. In fact, one of the sectors of the Trump administration that people most want to see success in, which is this shutting down of the expenditures, the unnecessary costs, and maybe even aspects of the administrative apparatus using the Doge tool that they had come up with. That's going to be friction at the very least. And interestingly, it's on an issue of immigration, on a very technical one. We don't have to talk about and shouldn't talk about the H-1B visa issue at all. Not saying it shouldn't be a conversation. We in this podcast, because I consider my podcast a conversation with you, even though you don't have the opportunity to say anything back to me, we should not be bothering to talk about it. This was it's a psyops. And yes, there are real points to the issue. Yes, H-1B visas need to be reformed and how they're done. Yes, H-1B visa is being, the system is being exploited. Yes, there are other concerns. But anyway, the point wasn't to deal with any of that, as I think people will start to realize more and more over time. The point, I think, was to fracture MAGA. That's what I said in the beginning, and to create this wedge against Elon Musk and Vivek. So now, was that the left or the right doing this? It turned out that was the right, right? That's all great. This is the other front of the war, is now creating a difficulty for Trump. So how smooth is Trump's ability to govern going to be if his MAGA base is working against him, and the left, more broadly and generally, is just putting up roadblocks and maybe starting fires, literal or figurative, that he has to deal with, then knowing that this midterm election is coming. And all the Democrats have to do to win this election, if the Republicans or the conservatives, I should say, continue to just kind of lose their friggin' minds, which is what they're doing right now, all the Democrats have to do is kind of sit tight and not go crazy. Granted, they're not really good at that. That's not their strong suit. Definitely not in their wheelhouse to maintain for 2 years without losing their marbles. But they might be able to kind of do it. Certainly the party apparatus, the Democratic Party apparatus, can display plenty of discipline in that regard. They can even openly distance themselves from the radicals who don't. And they look like the sane adults in the room, while Trump is not delivering on his promises because of the tumult. And the right is just going absolutely batshit insane. Or being, I shouldn't say is going, right? Because these things nobody's going insane. We're being driven insane by media narratives that are being delivered on purpose from enemies, foreign and domestic, who want to do things like undermine Trump. So we have this question: how successful is Trump going to be? We have another question: will a Republican be able to win, whoever Trump's successor is? Because it won't be Trump running in 2028. Maybe it's J.D. Vance. Maybe it's somebody else. Nobody quite knows for sure yet what is going to look like. And the left is not going to make it. They're not just going to go away, I should say, and they're not going to make it easy. So in the meantime, the left front of the war is basically everything we had to do before to get rid of the left, except all that's left to do it. This is the left front of the war. We have to do everything that we were doing before to get rid of the left, in all of our institutions, in all the power that they hold, except none of the fun parts, right? All the fun stuff of being online and the big rallies and the pointing at the Democrats and saying Kamala Harris is a Marxist and here's why, and everybody cheers and claps. That part's over. All that there is now is like boring bureaucratic faces that need to be replaced, and tons of institutions like academia, nonprofits, and so on, churning out the same garbage and doing everything they can to implement it against the will of the people who voted for Trump. And that left war continues. If you want hard proof of that, ask anybody who has dedicated very honorably a great deal of their time to fighting specifically the gender ideology and transgender aspect of this issue, and ask them if they think that the election of Trump magically stopped children from undergoing mutilating surgeries, because it didn't. And Trump can say all he wants. He's going to stop transgender madness. But what is he going to do? Issue an executive order? Get Congress to pass a law? Just like has happened in virtually every state that has done similar? That's going to end up in court. Some of the stuff in some of the states is holding up, and some of the stuff in some of the states is not holding up. And we haven't done anything to educate the judiciary. And not only has the left will accelerate that project because they can at the moment. And so that's not a certain path. Trump can say he's going to stop the transgender madness, and that was a major selling point for him, but can he? No, he can't actually. And the good men and women who have stood up and risked their safety, their careers, spent their time, their money, have traveled to fight this issue on the ground, to fight this issue in policy circles, to fight this issue for real. No, this fight's not over. It's not even close to over. So the woke left is still on the rampage there, and they're going to keep as much ground as they can keep, and they're going to gain as much ground as they can gain, and they're going to use anything that goes wrong in the Trump administration or in the conservative movement around the Trump administration. They're going to use anything that they can as a justification for why what they're doing is both right and needed, why everything they've ever said about Republicans and conservatives is true. That's just one example. It's not gone. But that brings us to the other side, the woke right. Nobody wants to talk about the woke right yet. Nobody's ready.
Oh, here it is.
It's a really interesting thing.
That's what we've been waiting for.
There's kind of this like professional deflection operation against the woke right. And then if you talk to a person, at least face to face, this is all online, that you have these conversations and people are just utterly mystified. What does it mean? It couldn't mean anything. You can't give a single example. You give 10 examples. They just say why those examples don't count. It's not real. It's never going to stick. And then you have the conversation in real life. First of all, let me just tell you all, when I went to America Fest, which is the huge Turning Point gathering right before Christmas, so this is already almost a month ago at the time of this podcast recording, and probably by the time it comes out, it will have been a month ago, because it started on December 18th. There was and this has been confirmed with other people. It wasn't my experience. It was the experience that I also experienced, probably in more amplified form because of my role in exposing the woke right, especially in the month of December before this
exposing the woke right.
This event.
James is like making
the conversation. There were two conversations happening at AmericaFest in one sense, meaning there was a conversation that was coming off the stage, and then there was a conversation that was happening in the room. And there were a lot of different conversations. Is not what I'm saying, that they're just two things people were talking about. But the stage was very, we won, we're the media now, we're this, we're that, everything, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be great. Health, something, maha this, maga that. Very uplifting, positive, blah, blah, blah. And in the room, there was a distinct undercurrent of conversation. It wasn't the only conversation, but everybody was talking about the woke right. Nobody on stage mentions the woke right. Everybody in the room is talking about the woke right.
Ooh,
the woke right is something
winning.
People were noticing.
Means we're winning.
Not everybody was noticing. A lot of people were confused, but everybody was talking about it. And so first things first, people are talking about this. They're talking about it everywhere. Conservatives, at least, everywhere are talking about this in person. They may not be making a show of it online. They may not even be saying what they think about it. They may not even be texting it or putting it in a screenshotable form. But when you talk to them face to face, it's a conversation a lot of people are having, and not just with me. This is a thing people are noticing and concerned about. Around the same time, I put up a poll on X, I think I put it up on maybe the 10th or something like that of December. I said, how long will it be till I'm fully vindicated on the woke right? And at the time, something like 40, 45, somewhere between 40 and 45, maybe it was 46, maybe it was 42, I can't remember, percent of the respondents, and there's 3,000 or 4,000 respondents, it wasn't a huge poll, responded that I already was vindicated, that they already, so nearly half, not quite half, certainly more than 40% of the people who responded to that poll, so broadly in my audience.
I mean, James, that just represents like that your audience is retarded. Honestly, that what that says is your audience is stupid, James.
But also with people who didn't want, that to be the answer, agreed that the woke right was already a thing, that they were understanding and seeing clearly in early December, mid-December, the 10th. So by the time AmericaFest comes around at the 20th, everybody's talking about it. I'm not lying. Everybody was talking about it.
Everyone was,
and not just me. I had people coming up to me and saying, not that they wanted to talk to me about it, but that everybody was talking about it to them. Very interesting conversations that shed a little light on the woke right, for example. Like I had a conversation with one fellow, and he wanted to know why I won't just call them fascists instead. Why do you got to call us woke right? Why don't you just call us fascists? And I said, well, is that what you want to be called? And he's like, yeah, well, it's kind of cool, And I was like, well, that's why you're woke right, because it turns out it's actually not cool. And that's actually what I said.
Cool,
that's why you're woke right, because you're not cool.
It is cool.
What you're doing is
James
not cool.
Sucks and was a nerd in high school.
There were a lot of conversations. A lot of people had opinions. My impression would be that virtually there's a very strong generational element to it. The overwhelming majority, though not every single person over the age.
Hey guys, hey, do you know it's actually not cool to be a fascist? Do you guys know that fascism isn't cool, guys? Do you know that classical liberalism is the coolest thing that's ever happened and it's very hip? But fascism is not cool, okay?
Of 35 or 40 seems very concerned about it. Every Jew I spoke to seems extremely concerned about it.
Well, they would be, wouldn't they?
Most of them were very grateful to me, proactively grateful to me for bringing it up, certainly. And then under 35, the younger crowd, it was very split. But virtually everybody had some idea about it and was thinking about it and talking about it. And I bring that up to say that what I've noticed, people are talking about it. And what I have noticed, and again, what others that I talk to have noticed, is that when you speak about this issue with some human being in person, this is where we were going through that whole diversion about AmericaFest. When you speak about the woke right in person with somebody and you tell them what it is, well, they want people to actually just identify them as fascists because that's how they think of themselves. Or there are people on the right who act like people on the left. Or there are people on the right who claim traditional values and so on. And they've adopted this method, which is if the left said it was bad, it's probably good. So racism is actually good because the left says it's bad. Anti-Semitism is actually good because the left says it's bad. This is the logic, right? We could go on.
That's not actually
and
the
they
logic
indulge
at
in
all.
that. It's all it takes. You have that conversation with somebody, 10, 15 seconds, and they're like, oh, I get it. Yeah, I've seen those people, especially the anti-Semitism. People have noticed the unbelievably rapid rise in anti-Semitism, not just on the left since October 7th, 2023, when Hamas attacked Israel, They've noticed that there was this rise also on the right, and people just asking questions, as it's phrased, and just noticing. I don't think that this is actually the biggest part of the woke right. It's a very significant and important part of the woke right. It's not to be considered as synonymous with the woke right, but people have noticed this dramatic, and not just dramatic, uptick in anti-Semitism, in Jew hate. Let's be much more clear. Jew hate. I'm not talking about some kind of thing that's like, that's what, you know, some Jewish organization calls anti-Semitic. No. I mean actual Jew hate. Just like when I'm saying racism here, I don't mean what the left means, the BS term. I mean actually judging somebody negatively based on their skin color and nothing else, or their ethnicity and nothing else.
James, I thought being Jewish wasn't an ethnicity though, James, based on your other podcast. Based on your other podcast, you said that it was just a religion, and that if people don't practice Judaism, they're not Jewish. I thought that, but now you're saying that being Jewish is an ethnicity? That seems to be a contradiction between what you just said in your other podcast. I digress. We love Jews here. We would never judge anyone for being Jewish. We think Jews are great. They're the best. They're God's chosen people. They will lead all of us.
Actual Jew hatred, etc. People are noticing this, and they notice not only that it's been an uptick, but that it's been an increasing volume, a rocket ride, and that it's getting attached to everything. They're noticing also that the psyops of the day is not coming from the left every week, the current thing. It's coming from the radical right, and every 2 or 3 or 4 days, there's another one. The H-1B visa debate exploded on Christmas Day. Couldn't take Christmas off, had to throw a psyops. People noticed, and they noticed that it very quickly went into a large amount of extreme positions on immigration that they don't recognize as what they were supporting going into.
Honestly, though, but honestly, can we be real? What are the chances that James is fucking one of the Jewish moms? Because James didn't ever talk about Jewish anything. And then all of a sudden, James was like the most pro-Jewish person on the internet. What is the likelihood that James is fucking a Jewish yenta? That's what it's called, right? They're called a yenta? Am I making that up? James is, as a reminder for people who don't know, James Lindsay did force his wife to be in an open marriage that she didn't want to be in so he could run around to his events all over the country banging his groupies. I just don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that James is fucking a Jewish woman. Oy vey. Oy vey, indeed.
The election, which was very significantly about immigration, and that it was about very, very racist tropes, and that an awful lot of pro-Hitler stuff somehow made its way in there. That freaked people out. People are noticing. So when you have this conversation with people in real life,
you're allowed to notice.
If they at least have a little bit of online...
Wait, so James and his friends are allowed to notice, but no one else is allowed to notice, or else you're on the woke right. Got it. Okay.
Activity, or if they're in one of these Christian communities, pretty much anywhere in the country, where these fellows have taken up residence in their churches. And I hear this from pastors. I've heard this at least from 30, maybe at least from 50 pastors around the country, that they have a problem with this identifiably in the church. And again, there's that generational aspect to it, which, by the way, came from the woke left. Remember back when Bernie was running for president, way back before Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party cheated him? Do you remember that one of the Bernie bro things? You remember I don't remember what story she had. I don't remember if she got in some trouble. I don't remember if she's gross. Maybe she's cool. Maybe she's gross. Maybe she's chill. I don't know what she's. But there was some cute brunette girl who would dance around, bob her head, and she had a Bernie Sanders sweatshirt on, and it was "Okay, Boomer." Okay, Boomer. Of course, I remember that because I transformed it into Okay, Groomer and got kicked off of Twitter for it, as we all know, when I was fighting the trans thing a couple of years ago before Elon Musk bought it and brought me back. That I got brought back in November of 22. I remember that because it's when I went to Karl Marx's grave and pissed on it right before that, or pretended to piss on it. Let's be more clear. But at any rate, it looked good in the picture. That was in November of 22. That's also when I went on the debate at Oxford. So that's how I remember when it was. And it was like a week after I got home from London that I got let back on Twitter. And so that's when that was, 22. I've digressed. Where was I going? Okay, Boomer. Okay, Boomer was generational Red Guard rejection of old people, of the Boomer generation and the Boomer mentality by the woke left, who were the radical.
Is James about to call the Groypers woke because they're young men who reject Boomers? James is about to literally say, if you don't accept Boomers and all their cringe, then you are part of the woke right.
At the time, They didn't want to hear their elders in the Democratic Party or throughout society or their parents tell them that they were acting the fool. Well, now all I hear is this exact same thing. Church after church after church, pastor after pastor after pastor that I've spoken with. Of course, they're working very hard now on sending out
We're not
large
obligated
amounts
to listen
of
to your bullshit,
smearing
bro.
information about me
I'm not
in
even
order to
that
make
young,
sure
and
that
I'm
I have
saying
less contact with pastors, because they don't want me talking to these guys about this stuff. They don't want me putting these guys in touch with each other so they can work on it in their own ways to deal with their theologies and their churches and whatever else. The fact of the matter is that I've become a hub of these issues, and they know that I can call them out and cause problems for their agenda. But I'm hearing from pastor after pastor after pastor that their churches are infiltrated, that it causes problems in not just their church environment, but also local Republican Party politics, that there is a deliberate attempt to hide their true intentions, to get involved in church things, and then to take advantage of that. Imagine that, hiding your true intentions so you can do things within church, meetings and leadership and so on, to take advantage of the church and try to damage it politically. Like, these people are going to hell.
Those
if
are
that's real,
those are
right?
career Marxists.
And then they're
James, what
soiling
you're
relationships
talking about.
with Republicans and government. They're trying to get into the government, and this is a huge problem. But what am I hearing consistently? They will not listen to anybody over 40. That's boomer mentality. They do not want to be mentored.
I'm
They
over
refuse.
40.
They reject it. It is young, angry men who don't want to hear anything except extremism. If you're extreme with them,
You are young, angry men. Groypers are just young, angry men who don't want to hear anything from their elders. Yeah, okay, James. The Groypers have more intellectual conversations than you do, like, all the fucking time.
they'll accept you. Doesn't matter how old you are. But if you disagree with them and you're older, it's okay. Boomer mentality, boomer theology, boomer. So there's this generational problem there. That's to say that this is maybe not prevalent, but it is happening in reality, and it's working its way into the institution of the churches. It is running an operation to get into the institution of the churches. It's also running an operation to get into the halls of power, political power, whether it's on the local level, like I just mentioned.
By the
or
way,
whether
can I just say, for some reason, there have been tweets on my account from like 2021 that people have been liking again lately. So it shows up in my notification and I'm like, when the fuck did I tweet that? And then I look at it and it's 2021. And listen, man, when I was involved in this whole conservative sphere, can I just repent of my sins for a second? Red pilling is a process. And I went through a stage in that process where I tweeted some really, really, really cringe shit. And I look back at some of the things I tweeted, and I'm like, oh, you sounded so fucking lame. And they were things that the conservatives loved. They were things that, like, this is why they keep showing up today. They were things that, like, the conservatives were like, yeah. They were, like, retweeting and hearting. And I look at those tweets now, and I'm like, wow, Carlin, wow, you were cringe. But you know what? I worked my way through the process. I kept growing. I kept evolving my perspective, listening to new ideas. And now, I've come around, and I want people to know that, like, I acknowledge why people used to think that I wasn't real and that I was cringe. I understand, but that's the reality of red pilling, and perhaps we need to exercise a little bit more forgiveness and understanding is all I'm saying.
That's now that Trump is taking over, trying to get into his administration, which I heard directly that they know that they are trying to do that. And there's lots of them trying to do that. Okay, so that's a problem. They also control, a lot of people say, well, what power do they have? They basically control X. You can say that they don't. Elon Musk controls it, and people can say whatever they want, and blah, blah, blah. That's not what I'm saying. They don't have the kind of control, the kind of coarse, censoring control that the left exercised when I got kicked off. They have instead the ability to make people's experience on the platform X so excruciatingly annoying and miserable.
Guys, the woke right will send you replies on Twitter that you don't like. We must stop these people. They are tweeting things that James Lindsay doesn't like. They are mucking up James Lindsay's replies. This is an emergency. They must be gatekept. They must be silenced. They must be stopped.
Or disgusting or frustrating or toxic or unpleasant, or the most common thing I hear from the droves of people I'm talking to that are leaving X, they're deactivating their accounts, is it's just not fun anymore. Everything's toxic all the time. People I thought I liked are losing their minds, etc. And they know that they can make people's experience toxic that way, that they go around in swarms to make sure that people have bad days if they fall afoul of anything. And as a result, the conservative influencers don't say a word. There are a very small number of people with prominence in the broader kind of so-called conservative or MAGA public space that are speaking up at all. Myself, and you all see what's happening to me if you follow me on social media. I'm being canceled. I'm being attacked vigorously by swarms, likely bot swarms, possibly bot swarms from foreign influence campaigns. All the time. It's the most toxic thing in the universe. Seth Dillon is speaking up from Babylon Bee.
How dare someone
Kissin has spoken up. A few others. So he's from Trigonometry. Constantine Kissin.
How
I think I
dare
stuttered on his name. I didn't mean to. And then a couple of the other guys at the Babylon Bee, Joel Berry, for example, for sure, has been speaking up. Michaela Peterson, that's Jordan Peterson's daughter, has spoken up. And you see these guys going after, of course, Seth and Joel and Constantine and me as a result of this. You see these guys going after Jordan Peterson and Michaela Peterson both as a result of this. And virtually nobody else is speaking up. Not anybody with large accounts. This is maybe starting to change in the wake of kind of the recent debacle where Andrew Tate was very clearly being rehabilitated and defended and just elevated again, utterly kind of shockingly and disgustingly for people who call themselves conservatives. Not exactly the avatar of conservatism that we want or need. And it's all the same woke right players doing this. So what makes these people woke? Let's get into that before we get into the rest of this kind of rambling controversy side that's driving people off of Twitter. But the fact was, though, they control the institution of media. They are worming their way into the institution of church, and they are worming their way into the institution of politics. And they have a strong amount of control that I think is faltering.
James is insinuating that Twitter is the only media in the world. Listen, man, I'm on Twitter as much as the next person, but there are an awful lot of people who are not on Twitter, and there are an awful lot of media platforms that people can do stuff on that are not Twitter. That's just like reality. Twitter is not the only thing that matters in the world. In fact, I would argue that Twitter is more of an entertainment and a news like what Twitter is great for is that you can find the news before anyone else. You can get an impression of what's going on in the culture of all these different groups. It's really useful for that. What Twitter is not useful for is getting anyone to do anything or actually engaging a community. Because people just don't do it. Like, people are on Twitter to be entertained or to find information. They're not there to do real activism. They're not there to accomplish real things. In fact, most of the people on Twitter don't even read the things that they're commenting on. Most people on Twitter don't watch the videos that they're sharing. I know this because, like, I can have videos that have hundreds of thousands of views on the tweet, and I will never forget this video. Like, I have a video of literal communists saying that they are going to violently overthrow the United States government. Andy No retweeted this video. This video was covered in a whole bunch of places. It's not the only video I have of them saying that, but they literally saying we're going to violently overthrow the federal government. If you look at the statistics on that video, most people watched 20 seconds of that video before ending the video, which means that almost no one who shared that video that has in the description that this says that communists are going to violently overthrow the federal government, people don't watch it. They aren't actually consuming the content. They aren't actually engaging in the content. It is just a platform for clout and clicks and dopamine hits and outrage junkies, and that's all it is. This is why I put all my stuff up on Substack, because Substack is a much calmer platform. On Substack, people actually read shit. On Substack, people actually watch videos. They listen to podcasts. It is a community that is designed around actual content consumption on a more nuanced and in-depth level, because it's just fundamentally different than what Twitter is. So James coming out and basically saying, the Groypers control Twitter. They're going to muck up your replies. I mean, maybe, but that doesn't mean they control the media. Twitter is not the media. I don't care how much Elon Musk says that Twitter is the media now. Twitter is not the media. It can be great for news. It can be great for independent journalists. It can be great for information and all that stuff, but it's not actually the only thing that matters.
Over the institution of church. So let's not talk about these people having no institutional power and being irrelevant. They control. Remember, so I said at Turning Point, one of the main talking points, one of the main themes, I heard Charlie Kirk say this repeatedly from the stage. I heard other people say it repeatedly from the stage. I said it from the stage in the panel that I moderated. You are the media now, meaning social media is the real media now. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, much less relevant than they have been. X, much more relevant. We are the media. The influencers are the media now. Because if you're small, you're not so much the media now. You might get something, but unless it gets driven into virality by one of the influencers, that's that. The influencers who get caught up in stings like the Tenet Media Russian money sting, and then got to, they all didn't know, but they were actually all being paid with Russian money to do what, by the way? To sow discord in MAGA. That was what it was for. The conservative movement needed discord in it. That's the kind of thing the Russians do.
Really?
They like A versus B. They like to split and cause chaos and division and strife between groups. And so they were pouring money in to this Tenet Media thing, and they were hiring influencers, some of them at a very large amount of money. I think the report said that Tim Pool was receiving $100,000 per episode once per week to do his Culture War show from this Russian money pot. And the point was to stir up discontent. So these people are the media now. They control one institution more or less completely, with very few people speaking up, and the people speaking up getting much less traction, although that's starting to increase at this point, thankfully, although also painfully. So let's not talk about them being not in power because they haven't filled out the administrative state or hold elected office so much yet, or run big corporations yet, because they have large amounts of money behind them, and they have a very coordinated plan, and they are acting out that plan, and they are seizing institutions in front of our eyes very quickly. But most importantly, and the crucial one, is the media. And they control social media, at least on X. They control, like it or not. Oh yeah, you can speak up. That's true. Like it or not, they control the conversation on X now. And these are people that are pushing Nazi propaganda in many cases to rehabilitate World War II history for pro-Hitler causes. Because we were all lied to about history, very woke kind of way of thinking. So what makes these people woke? Well, victimhood. They're the victim.
Obviously, everything that we were ever taught in school about every historical event, including the Holocaust, was 100% accurate, and we were never lied to. And you should never even bother to look into things because, you just really shouldn't do that. Just accept, okay? Just accept that we are always told the truth about everything in every possible way, and there's no reason to go back and look into things.
Victims of a grand narrative of history that was designed to exclude people like them from power. And they are, actually, I read this today, they were better bred, apparently, than most of us. So in some sense, they're elite, and therefore have a entitlement to rise above and rule over us. They are the only true conservatives, and they're the only people who know the true, honest history that they've rewritten about World War II and the entirety of the 20th century and 21st century since. They're the only ones who understand how some power dynamic that, we usually talk about the UN, the World Economic Forum, and so on, that they call it globo-homo for global homogeneity, as if there's no hidden pun in there. They're the only ones who know how that works. And they are going to have to therefore lead. Nobody else has solutions. And what they do with almost all of their time, as the only people allegedly who know how to stop the left, is attack people
They don't even
the
care
right,
about the
who
left.
are not as extreme as them.
Listen.
It's almost all they do.
Well, they don't even care about the left, James. They care about being gatekept by people like you who are not conservative, who are not on the right, and who are daring to try to be the arbiters of what is and is not on the right.
The other thing that they do is that they become the stereotypes of the right that the left has said we are for the last 10 years. Like I said earlier, an operable definition for them would be that they see what the left says is bad and decide that it's good and then try to embody it.
That's not what
Racism,
happens at all.
Homophobia, bigotry, sexism, outright calls, positive calls for a patriarchal system, toxic masculinity, anti-Semitism, and outright Jew hate.
We love Jews.
Very extreme views on issues like immigration that are unnecessary to the actual circumstances, particularly when we have a very difficult job with the illegal immigration issue that the Biden administration was so generous with against our country, using the Cloward Piven strategy, a socialist strategy, to try to destroy us from within. But no, they have to focus on other aspects, very extreme, like getting rid of legal immigration, getting rid of all the Indians, South Asians, maybe East Asians in the country. Because, as South Park put it, dirk-a-dur, which was, by the way, the redneck rabble-roused, boiled-down expression of "they took our jobs, they took our jobs, dirk-a-dur, if you remember the South Park.
It kind of sounds to me like James is making fun of Americans who are kind of pissed off that they went to engineering school and then Tesla is importing Indian engineers who will work for cheaper wages than them, but actually probably not do significantly better job than them. It sounds to me like James is making fun of Americans, just like Vivek did, and that didn't really go over so well for Vivek. It sounds to me like James is making fun of people who don't want to import people to take American jobs.
Season 2, making fun of that a long time ago, 20 years ago, making fun of that. Well, that's where we're back to now. So what makes them woke? Victimhood, identity politics. The identity politics is different from the identity politics on the left, and not just reversed in direction. The woke right is obsessed not with some cosmic sense of social justice and injustice. Social justice is actually kind of national justice. And so they're obsessed with the concept of the nation and who really qualifies as a member of the nation. And then what does it mean to be American? They have this term that they throw around, heritage American. Maybe you've run into it. It's been out there for a little bit. You'll hear more about it. It's going to be a divisive point. You know how, like I explained before, that the left cooks up these, bourgeois, you have democracy, then you have bourgeois democracy, then you have,
what does that mean,
proletarian democracy. And I gave this whole lecture about how, from Lenin, a couple of different places. One is a podcast, one's an actual lecture I gave in public, talking about how that's a word trick that they do deliberately to split a concept into the good version that's them and the bad version that they're trying to destroy. Well, here we have Americans as being split into Americans and heritage Americans. Right, so they're obsessed with this concept of the nation and who qualifies. Well, just like the communists, who qualifies as the people under Mao Zedong? Well, it's the people who agree with Mao. So who actually qualifies as being a heritage American? Well, there might be some ethnic or immigration status or in period of time or number of generations or whatever qualification. But ultimately, the structure is still the people who agree with the radical right
James is a
de facto
globalist.
heritage American status, and people such as myself, who is a direct relation to, say, Robert E. Lee, which is true. I'm seventh cousins to Robert E. Lee. We share a grandfather in our lineage. So his grandfather, and then I'm 9 down from that or whatever, or however that math works. Maybe that's wrong. 7 down, something like that. 7, I guess, down from that. We share this common part of our tree. Anyway, am I a heritage American? No, I disagree with them. I only would qualify as heritage American if I start to agree with them, see, because I have to be on the program.
Nope, that's actually not the argument that's being made, because I do kind of know what he's talking about. James actually would qualify under this because, and this is not something I agree with. I want to make this very clear. I do not agree with this particular train of thought, but I'm explaining what it is because I actually took the time to understand the argument that was being made. What they are saying is that if you are not descended basically from European stock, then you are not an American. So James presumably is descended from European stock, so he would actually qualify under this. What they're saying is that like other people, like because America was founded by Europeans, and that's the way it goes. And so if you come outside, and again, this is their argument, I don't agree with this, but like they're saying if you come outside of this cultural stock that founded the country, then you can be an American citizen, but you are not really like an American in the way that like the founders envisioned for the country. And they're saying that you should, like, people who are outside of this, the European stock, they can that they should really be assimilating to American values if they're going to be in America. Again, I don't agree with this. I really don't. But I'm explaining what James is not explaining, because he's trying to obfuscate what it is to try to make some sort of allegory with the left that isn't actually correct, because he's not correctly defining what these things are.
Because otherwise, if we're not all on the program, it doesn't work. There's a name for this kind of ethno-nationalist project where the people who count are the people who agree with the ethno-nationalist project and who deify the state and make the state their god. It's called fascism. I called it idolatry of the state when I read it to you explicitly out of Mussolini's doctrine of fascism, which, by the way, is not an economic doctrine. He does not explain the corporatist business side of fascism. He's not describing economic fascism in that book. Mussolini is describing
cultural.
The idea of fascism as an ideology.
Duh.
And what it is an idolatry of the state. The state becomes God. Nobody has an identity outside of the state and the nation that it rules over. And that's how you know who is who and what their life means and what the value of their life is, and thus what can be done to them by the state that's in power. And so they have this similar obsession. Not all of them are as invested in this nationalist project as would be Mussolini. And by nationalist here, I mean fascist. Which is, they're not perfect synonyms. but many of them are. Others, of course, like with regular woke, left woke, people have varying degrees of it. There are people who buy into the pronouns, but they don't buy into kids getting their weenies chopped off, as it turns out. How do I know that such people exist? I know some of them. Okay, I know people who are like, no, the pronouns are respect, but I'm a little leery about the surgeries. I'm a little leery about a drag queen in the school. I'm not sure about that. And I know people who are okay with the drag queen, but they're not okay with the surgeries, right? Except in extreme cases, they'll say. So there's a spectrum of how much people believe this stuff. So same thing with this national identity thing. But that makes them pretty woke. They're woke to what it really means to be an American in this case, a heritage American. That's a woke way of thinking. It's an awakened way of thinking. It is a Gnostic way of thinking, or in the original German that the Nazis actually used for themselves. It is an Erwacht way of thinking. Erwacht Deutschland.
Oh yeah, the Nazis
Awake
were Gnostic.
Germany. That was a slogan of the Nazis. Erwacht Deutschland. Awake Germany. Or woke Germany. Erwacht could be translated as woke.
Yeah, Germany was woke. Hitler's
Nazis called
Germany
themselves
was woke.
How about that?
Okay.
And so these guys are making similar mistakes. The
Fuck?
The woke left sees that the world is constructed in these systems of power that create oppression, and the oppression is bad, so give the power to the communists, and they're going to end the systems by becoming the system and working it to the ground. That's Marx's famous dictum of that the dictatorship of the proletariat will erect a semi-state, in Lenin's words, that will eventually wither away by its own lack of necessity to continue, because it is geared up to end class conflict, and the point of the state is to maintain class conflict. That's the theory in communism anyway. So they see oppression and say, give us the power and we're going to wind it down. Whereas the fascist side, the woke right side, sees this oppression hierarchy and they say, that's what made our society work. The communists are trying to disrupt it, so we're going to repel the communists, and we're going to do so by asserting that power hierarchy. It's that there is an oppression hierarchy, yes, indeed, because we are oppressing and repressing those elements that poison the sanctity of the nation. And if we can't preserve the sanctity of the nation, then we can't preserve the political entity of the state, and we are going to end up in a revolution or something terrible or under communist rule. And the stupid liberals, they would say, aren't awake to this. They have a false consciousness. They're not erwacht. They don't have solutions. They don't know what time it is. This is all their kind of a woke right word salad that they use to describe this stuff. Of course, they also tend to be obsessed with a particular power dynamic it's called Jewish power. Apparently, Jews run everything, and
disavow.
They have all this crazy power over everything. You've seen
disavow. Jews do not run the world at all, and I'm quite frankly offended that James would imply that they do. It is offensive, James, and it is anti-Semitic to say that Jews run the world. They obviously do not, and we disavow all anti-Semitism on this channel.
Recent psyops about it, not just all the rehabilitation of Hitler, not just the revisionism of World War II history that has been very thoroughly refuted by people like Victor Davis Hanson, for example. Not just that stuff, but you've also seen, this kind of weird push. I called it on Twitter, I don't know how to actually pronounce AIPAC, IPAC, or whatever we'll call it, IPAC. AIPAC. It's this Jewish American lobbying group. I called it IPAC Gate. So very recently, as of the time of this recording, there was an attack on basically saying, Ian Carroll put this out. Who's Ian Carroll? Who the fuck knows who Ian Carroll is? Ian Carroll didn't exist on anybody's radar. As far as anybody can tell from his Instagram, he was like writing stories and like playing with crayons in his parents' basement like 2 years ago, and now all of a sudden he has 1 million followers, and he's kind of all over. Some of the stuff he says is like really hammering it. He claims that he's an OSINT, open source intelligence guy, and so he's just figuring out, using Wikipedia primarily as a source, all this stuff. And he's put together some pretty fantastic videos about some of the woke left stuff and some of the money trails and all of this. Like, some of it seems to be pretty legit. I mean, I haven't double checked all of his I's and T's to see if they're dotted and crossed, but they were worth sharing. I shared his videos a number of times. I didn't know quite who he was. He's that younger guy who kind of self-shot TikTok style videos that looks like he's got a porn star stash, but he's probably not a porn star because he's just probably not. That's Ian Carroll. If you don't know who he is, I don't recommend really looking him up, because I think he's a propagandist, because the only consistent thing that he's had in his quiver.
So this is because James is pissed off that Ian Carroll replied to Elon Musk and then epically ratioed Elon Musk with his reply explaining some of the alleged nuances of Jewish power, which of course we do not avow on this channel at all, but it got a lot of attention on Twitter, and James is pissed off that Ian Carroll got all that attention, and presumably James did not get that attention, so.
Is being anti-Israel, and he seems to hate Israel. I don't know why he hates Israel. He swears up and down that he's not paid to hate Israel professionally. Maybe that's true. Maybe he just has a bone to pick. I don't know what it is, but it's very consistent.
Sometimes
and you see him with a lot of positive support for some of these
James.
other characters, like Nick Fuentes, that normal people don't normally support. Andrew Tate.
Nick mentioned.
Normal people don't normally support. Candace Owens, who a lot of people do support, but who has a lot of questionable stuff going on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This guy led a kind of publicity stunt, as far as I can tell. He says that he Israel pilled Elon Musk. It does not appear that he actually did, but he used that to leverage his video and to leverage himself over 1 million followers on X, as far as I can tell. And his claim is, I mean, he makes this video with a number of claims, but one of the claims that AIPIC or AIPAC or whatever, APAC, however you say that gate, was that that lobbying group, which is apparently not, the details don't matter, but it's like 199th in largest or something like that, and 20th in contributions. He claims that they own 90% of Congress, and that's why all these other bad things, like in my
which is also what Thomas Massey said when he was interviewed by Tucker Carlson, like explicitly.
Replies where he started yelling at me just because I said that it was indicative that the woke right was going to expand. All I said, I didn't argue with him. I didn't try to argue with him. I didn't try to bring up the points at all. I used his video, his anti-AIPIC, anti-Israel video that he posted, where he said that he.
Can I let you guys in on something that I kind of like? I'm a little worried about saying in public, but I'm going to say it anyway. We're amongst friends. You know, why not? I'm actually starting to become convinced that James is a narcissist. Like a real one. Not, and I don't, you guys know, I do not use the term narcissist to throw around as a pejorative. I don't use it as an insult for people because it is actually a really sad thing. It's a disorder that develops in childhood because your parents are not meeting your most basic needs and all that stuff. I don't think it's correct to use it as an insult to people, especially like not in the way James does. But I'm actually starting to become convinced that James is a narcissist. And I'm also starting to become convinced that I made him snap, and that's why he's being so ridiculous when it comes to me, because I elicited a narcissistic snap in him. And the reason I say that is we've listened to a lot of James's stuff now. James has a habit of rewriting history. And like, he says things that happened that didn't happen. They're provable that they didn't happen. He contradicts himself all the time. James is always the hero in any circumstance. Everyone else is always wrong. Anyone who disagrees publicly with James is the bad guy. He purposefully goes out of his way to try to, you know, embarrass people that go against him. I was chatting with James's stepdaughter. And James's stepdaughter told me that one time at a Thanksgiving, well, okay, I won't say that. I'm not going to say that. James's stepdaughter told me that James has a habit of going to family functions and just bragging about how great he is, to the point where, like, it will actually piss other people at the family functions off. Like, to the point where, like, he's going on and on and on and on and on about how great he is in every possible way. And his relatives will say, like, that's enough, like, bro, like, come on, calm down. Like we're at Thanksgiving here, bro. And so it's like, he obviously, like, I think that James's stepdaughter also told me that James actually does believe that he's, like, saving the world. Like, he has this, like, overblown hero complex. And he obviously thinks he forced his spouse to be in an open marriage she didn't want to be in so he could go bang all his groupies. I'm legitimately starting to think that James is actually a narcissist, and that actually makes me really sad. But it also means that, like, James's psychotic obsession with me is not going to go away anytime soon, and I'm kind of coming around to accepting that. Listen, when we started the whole war on James thing, it was kind of one of those things where we literally just wanted to pressure him to say capitalism more. And do you guys remember how disproportionately James took, like, any criticism of his work? Where, like, we were like, we just want you to say capitalism, bro. And then all of a sudden there would be 9 tweets about how I had a personality disorder or something. It was like the response was so disproportional to what was actually happening. But then we kept ratcheting up because he kept ratcheting up. And I don't regret any of that. But I'm just saying, it's like every part of this interaction kind of tells me that there's something going on, because he contradicts himself all the time. He lies provably all the time. He has set himself up to be, like, the center of this whole thing. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not making an official diagnosis, but that's what my gut is telling me, and I think that that's a really sad thing, actually.
Israel pilled Elon. I just said the woke right is going to expand soon, or it won't stay small, something like that. So he decided he had to come in and be like, you didn't even argue with me. You can say I'm a liar. Like, I wasn't talking about what you said, but it turns out that a small or medium, I guess, sized lobbying group owning 90% of Congress, while there are like 19 other lobbying agencies bigger than that, probably a little hyperbole in your claims. And other people are trying to take him apart, some with more success than others. But that's beside the point. The point is that there's this whole Jew-hating side of this that has this kind of softer Jew-hating or anti-Jew.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I was also thinking about this too, Big Mac Attack, which is like, you know, James wants to accuse me of leading a cult because I called my show The Cult as like an ironic thing. And like, I don't mind that. I actually think that that's kind of funny that James is like tweeting out there that I'm leading a cult. But like, has anyone ever looked in the replies of James's like sycophantic followers? They only listen to James. They don't listen to anyone else. They can't take in other information. They are psychotically obsessed with James at all times. They buy all these bullshit narratives that James tries to sell. It's like, people in my cult don't listen to me. I am a horrible cult leader. People in my own cult don't listen to me. They criticize me. They don't do what I ask them to do. There are like 3 people in my cult that actually do what I ask them to do. People in my cult get pissed off at me all the time. You know, I'm a horrible cult leader. James is actually a really good cult leader because James has these people that are just like obsessed with him on just a really severe level.
But hides behind anti-Israel, which hides behind anti-Zionist contingent. And basically everywhere you see the woke right, you see this happening. And you also see everybody who's kind of woke right-ish all defend each other, and they all try to shun the term woke right, almost like they're working together somehow, almost like it's coordinated. I can't prove that it's coordinated, but they act like it's coordinated.
It's almost like people who agree with each other on social media sometimes become friends. And sometimes people who agree with each other on social media, they talk to each other and they hang out and they do spaces together and they have group chats together. And it's almost like people who have the same ideas about the world, they get to know each other and they become friends. I know it's a foreign concept to you, James. I get it. I really do.
So this is the woke right. Also, they have this anti-Jewish, sometimes very explicitly, sometimes very much more soft. I won't say very soft. It's not very soft. Trying to create a wedge in conservatives about, that's the point. Okay, so that's the point. What's the woke right for? It's to create wedges in conservatives. That's it. That's the whole point. It's to, well, no, that's not, it's half the point.
Not exactly.
To create wedges in conservatives is one of their primary purposes. We'll say it that way. And one of the wedges here is going to be that conservatives in America have for a very long time supported Israel.
James is not a conservative. James is a classical liberal. James is the one trying to create wedges among conservatives because he wants everyone to be a classical liberal.
So they're like, by the way, that was always a scam. And then they're just, you know, not even a stone's throw. It's like a stone's drop away from the people who are out like literally doing Hitler posts, right? The mustache guy was right, blah, blah, blah. We're national socialists kind of stuff saying that. That you can't get away from that. Even the people who are really soft in the woke right, kind of the Christian nationalist, you know, buttoned up elbow patches, academic guys, can't get away from the Israel issue because their whole vision is that all of history from World War II forward, at least, was written to stave off the rise of fascist ideologies that they themselves espouse. And the point was to keep them boxed out of politics. They call themselves the real right or the true right. And the point was that a fake conservatism was created largely by Barry Goldwater to keep them out of politics. Who are they? Racists and fascists. Let's be very clear about who they are. Who claim that they have the only true reading of history because they claim things like that the Jews wrote the history of the world after the Holocaust, which maybe in their view did or didn't happen or was or wasn't as extreme as is said.
Did you guys know? Fun fact. Did you know? Because I've been working on this little kind of like mini book about the development of the word racism, where I'm actually tracing like the development of the definition of the word racism, and it's actually really interesting. I'm going to be publishing just a little tiny book about it. But the word genocide didn't exist until after this is just something I found out while I was researching the racism thing. The word genocide did not exist until after the Holocaust. Does anyone want to guess who created the word genocide? Because in my book about the development of the word racism, I'm making sure everyone's ethnicity and religion are named, as many as I can. Does anyone want to guess who created the word genocide after the Holocaust? I don't know his name, but I know his profession and I know his ethnicity. Yeah, it was a Jewish lawyer. A Jewish lawyer created the term genocide after the Holocaust to refer specifically and exclusively to the Holocaust, which is why I think all the pro-Israel people are saying that Israel can't perpetrate a Holocaust, because the word was specifically created by a Jewish lawyer. And again, I do have the name in the book, I just can't remember it off the top of my head, to describe specifically the Holocaust of the Jews. I'm just saying, that's just a fact of history. It's neither here nor there. We're not making value judgments. We love all Jews.
Horrifying is maybe a better word than extreme. You know what I mean? Minimizers, apologists, deniers, all kinds of things. Not everybody is all of these or the worst of these at the same time. And that's just kind of intrinsic to their weird philosophy that everything post-World War II has to go. As a matter of fact, you have some people out there arguing that what heritage American means. When I say some people, I mean including C.J. Engel, who, as far as I know, has a strong claim on having maybe coined the term, is that what he means by heritage American is anybody whose family was in America before World War II and the new consensus about what it means to be American, and that America is a propositional nation, that anybody who believes in the American ideals and has achieved legal citizenship is as American as everybody else. These ideas, they say, are ahistorical, that there's a heritage America, that America was actually for. This is a woke entitlement story. We could go on. Point is, that's the second front in the war, two-front war, woke left, woke right. Now what matters...
I mean, is James arguing that... Listen, man, my ancestors came to America around the time of the Revolution. And, well, my ancestors on the French side came to America around the time of the Revolution. My ancestors on the Irish side came over on the boat through Ellis Island. My family's been here for a long-ass time. Are you actually telling me that James doesn't think there's a difference between families that have been in this country for hundreds of years, that literally built this country, that built what America means, and families that came in later? Like, and listen, I'm literally married to an immigrant. I'm not shitting on people who came in later. I think that I don't agree with this Heritage America thing. I really don't. But, like, there is a difference between the culture of people who have had families that literally were a part of building this country and people who came over later. There just is a difference. And we should be allowed to acknowledge that.
And I have to be positive about something before I end this. What matters is that there's an intrinsic dynamic between the two. Number one, the woke right is exactly the thing the woke left said the right is. Remember back in the day, and they turned it into a joke, the woke left said everybody...
James is still obfuscating what the left actually believes, because the claims that the left is making about everyone being a racist and a fascist have nothing to do with actual racism. It has nothing to do with actual fascism. It has to do with capitalism. They call you a racist if you embrace capitalism, because systemic racism is the system that upholds racism. That means capitalism. They call you a fascist if you do not embrace socialism. That is what the definition of fascist is. It is free market capitalist. If you believe in private property ownership, then on the left you are called a fascist. So James is the one that is curating the truth to not be honest to his audience, because he's developing a political narrative to attack people he doesn't like. These are not the correct definitions that the left uses. Not really.
And their brother that didn't agree with them is alt-right. I think you can actually read profiles on me that I'm an alt-right character myself. I'm certainly not an alt-right character. Well, it turns out the alt-right was a real thing, the alternative right. It had characters in it like Mike Cernovich. It had characters in it who was in the so-called manosphere and probably doing some kind of weird drugs. I don't know. Whatever Mike Cernovich does. It's, again, he's one of these characters. It's like you try to figure out what in the hell he actually... Why do people listen to him? Nobody can figure it out. Nobody knows why he's a thing. But then he was some bro dude in the manosphere and somehow became like tapped into the kind of white nationalist
Remember, guys,
alt-right
James
dudes.
is the only
I
person
don't know if he
anyone
was
should
one of them or
listen to.
not. In like 2014 and 15, rose pretty big, and then somehow still a thing. I don't know. Jared Taylor recently came back on Twitter. He is an outright white nationalist.
I don't like him.
I think he is something like American Renaissance or something like this. What is that? It means what it sounds like it means. He's very clear about what it means, actually. And he's a white nationalist. So you have this alt-right that was real. The woke right is like the reinvention
Sorry,
of
I
that.
don't like Jared
Plus,
Taylor.
intentionally importing
you
things
guys
like
do,
critical
I don't.
theory, Marxist analysis, postmodern theory, Hegelian dialectic, all of which, by the way, they not only have they copped to, but they've copped to extensively and enthusiastically since I did the hoax where I wrote 6 pages of the Communist Manifesto and sent it to the American Reformer for them to publish. The American Reformer later the same week published an article saying that what the right needs to start using is the Hegelian dialectic. Aaron Wrenn, who is on the board of the American Reformer, has published articles recently suggesting explicitly, for example, that conservatives need to use postmodernism. Mike Cernovich came out and said that Marx was a great writer, and of course, the conservatives have always agreed with Marx's criticisms of liberalism. Everybody that I can tell in these circles said that Marx had great critiques of liberalism that conservatives have always agreed with.
Again, James is just pissed off because people don't want to be liberals. James is a liberal. James wants everyone else to be liberals. James thinks that everyone to the right of classical liberals are literally fascist. He is the one that is acting woke.
There are arguments for why apparently conservatives need to embrace socialism coming from this group. I don't know what to call them except woke. You have people like Lotus Eaters, for example, Carl Benjamin, who explicitly calls himself a postmodern traditionalist. He explicitly says that he is postmodernist in his approach. He does it intentionally. He says that the weakness of people like me is that I haven't admitted that we live in postmodernity and therefore I'm using the wrong tools. I have not progressed into the correct frame of analysis for a progressive conservatism that uses postmodern tools. This is explicit about this. This is how unless he's changed it by the time you're listening to this, this is what
Everyone
is
is
on
wrong,
his
and
bio
James is
right now,
right.
that he is a
Everyone is wrong,
postmodern
and James is
traditionalist.
right.
He's
Yep.
embraced postmodernism.
That is weird. And I
this
just want to be
isn't-
clear. I want to be clear. Everyone should listen to other sources other than me. I have no expectation at all that I'm the only person that people listen to. You can even go listen to people I don't like. You can go listen to James. You can go listen to Arun McIntyre. I think he's an asshole, but you can go listen to him. You can go listen to other people. I don't really care. Do you want to know why I don't care? Because I have primary source evidence that speaks for itself, and I don't really feel the need to defend that. But James can't handle it when people go listen to other people that James doesn't like.
An aberration for these guys. Stephen Wolfe, who wrote The Case for Christian Nationalism, has for years now openly said that he uses critical theory. They bank off of scholars such as Hans Hermann Hoppe, who is this arch conservative alt-right kind of philosopher guy who turns out to be. I mean, Hans Hermann Hoppe. Sometimes I get these guys mixed up because I don't spend that much time with them. Hans Hermann Hoppe, if I'm not mistaken, had Jürgen Habermas as his PhD advisor. He was a critical theorist. They cite Paul Gottfried all the time. Paul Gottfried has allegedly not only discredited my hoax of American Reformer, but Paul Gottfried allegedly has explained that I don't understand Marxism at all. And
you don't understand Marxism at all
because I mix woke and Marx together, and he says that they're not the same thing at all.
Well, that's not right either.
God knows how many hundreds of hours explaining what I mean by that and the evolution of Marxism being my thesis. But Paul Gottfried just says that I'm wrong and stupid. Of course, I called him a moron, so that's fair, I guess. They're fair play. It turns back, or however that phrase goes. And so Paul Gottfried, anyway, the point was Paul Gottfried's PhD advisor was Herbert Marcuse. Like, give me a fucking break. The guy has imported critical theory, methodology, and thinking to his new post-liberal right.
Isn't it funny that every single person who disagrees with James is considered to be either a literal communist or a literal fascist? Like, it's like there's no one that can disagree with James that's not a communist or a fascist. Do I like Blair White? No. Blair White is a fame whore that just likes clothes and makeup. And I've met Blair. I've been in the same room with Blair White on multiple occasions. I've talked to Blair White. I've seen Blair White behind the scenes. Blair White has all of their scripts written for them by other people. If they're going to debate anyone, they have... Like, I saw Blair White prepping for a debate in which they did no prep at all, and then they were handed a giant binder of information, and then they just had to remember some key points to be able to talk about. When I was at the debate with Blair White, they were so nervous that they DoorDashed a bottle of vodka to the event so that they could get drunk before the debate. Blair White has actively smeared me on multiple occasions. Blair White basically smeared me when I was trying to protest against a school for covering up that teachers were sexually molesting children. Blair White thinks it's totally fine that this school was covering up for teachers sexually molesting children because she wanted a chance to attack me because Blair White is nothing but a fame whore that likes clothes and makeup, and that's all Blair White is. Just another influencer, entertainer that just wants money and a clothing line and a makeup line, and that's all it is. That's all it ever is. Do I like Jordan Peterson? I feel sorry for Jordan Peterson at this point. I think Jordan Peterson needs to go away. I think that Jordan Peterson maybe at one point, like, okay, so Jordan Peterson has had a positive impact on the lives of a lot of people. And I want to acknowledge that because that's not an insignificant thing. I'm not saying that everything Jordan Peterson has ever said or done is bad, because I think that Jordan Peterson has done a lot of good in the world. He's helped a lot of people. He helped young men that needed help when they felt like the entire world was against them. And so I have no problem with Jordan Peterson from that respect, but I think that after Jordan Peterson developed his little benzo problem and then sold out to the Daily Wire, it has been downhill ever since. I have no use for Jordan Peterson now. I think he's a shill of the Daily Wire. I think he's doing whatever he needs to do to make money and to maintain his status and maintain his clout and all that. I think he stopped caring about people a long time ago, and I think it's very sad, and I think he needs to retire and go away. Hey, thanks, Big Mac Attack. Thank you for becoming a member of the channel. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, the moral of the story is this, guys. The internet is full of grifters. You should always be skeptical of everyone, including me. This is why I always give you guys primary sources for whatever I do. You can always look at the information yourself. You don't actually need me to walk it through with you. And you should always be skeptical of literally everyone on the internet with any sort of platform at all. That's not to say there aren't real people, because there are. I actually really do believe that Nick Fuentes is a real person. I believe he believes what he says he believes. I believe that, he's not a perfect person by any means, but I do believe he's an authentic person and he's true to what he believes. Sometimes his beliefs evolve over time. That's called growing up. It just happens, And so there are real people on the internet. I think Elijah Schaffer is a real person. And I disagree with a lot of what Elijah says. I don't like some of the things that he says, but that's not my business. I think he's a real person, and I think he's true to what he believes. And I don't think, and he's given up a lot. That guy gave up a lot to be able to speak his mind. So there are real people out there, but pretty much everyone that's lifted up by the conservative establishment, you have to assume that they're all using the approved talking points. Because I was one of those people that the conservative establishment lifted up for like a year because they thought they could control me when they couldn't. And it was made very, very clear to me what talking points I was allowed to say and what I wasn't allowed to say. It's not like they don't give you a list or anything, but it's like it's made very clear to you what you are and are not allowed to say and what's expected of you. And, it just is what it is. And that's why I exited entirely after Joe Biden took office in 2021. I was like, I want nothing to do with this shit anymore. I did my time. I tried. And now I'm out. And I left. I wish I knew how you felt about Jordan Peterson. Well, I just told you how I felt about Jordan Peterson. The thing with Jordan Peterson is this. Human beings are complicated. There are times when Jordan Peterson is a deeply flawed person. But Jordan Peterson has also had a profoundly positive impact on the lives of a lot of people, and we have to allow for that. Okay? We have to allow for that. I'll talk about Chris Rufo. I'll say this. I am so disappointed in Chris Rufo, in the direction he's gone now. But I'm also really happy that he did what he did in terms of standing up and being someone that did organize an activist movement against critical race theory, against DEI. Because no one, and I sent him a DM and I said this the other day after Trump signed the executive order. I said, listen, I disagree with so many things Chris Rufo has said and done. Chris Rufo's talked shit about me behind the scenes, and I damn well know that. But there's no one that fought harder against DEI than Chris Rufo. And there's no one that fought harder against CRT back in the day than Chris Rufo. And the reason that Trump signed the executive order getting DEI and affirmative action out of the government is probably almost entirely because of the work that Chris Rufo did. So it's like you can appreciate the aspects of someone where they are doing legitimate good work. You can also at the same time say, I appreciate this aspect about that person, but man, this is not cool. And that's kind of how I feel about who Chris Rufo is today, in that I don't like the narrative he's shilling. It's obvious he's shilling a narrative. I think it's inauthentic and gross. I don't like that he's talked shit about me behind the scenes because I never did anything but support him and be nice to him. That's it. But he's playing this political game, and he's probably going to run for office someday, and he's playing a political game. But can we appreciate what he did in terms of really putting himself out there to combat this ideology? Yeah, I think we have to. And I think we have to be honest about that. And we can disagree with other things that he's done at the same time. Anyway, guys, I think I'm kind of done. I think we've heard what we need to hear. We listened to an hour of this. There's only half an hour left. I'm kind of done. You guys done? I'm going to go do some other work. So that is the end of the stream against James. Has he tweeted about me since I've been live? Let's see. Let's just make sure there isn't a James update since I've actually been live before I go. Hang on, I'll show you guys what I'm looking at so you guys can see it too. We get the idea. Everyone that disagrees with James is wrong about everything. Everyone that agrees with him is right. Everyone that disagrees with him is wrong. Oh, he's got a really long thread about something. Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Oh, he is! Look at that. He did tweet about me. Tweeted about me while I was on the stream talking about him. All right, well, let's see. Let's see. Predictably. Oh, look. Tweeted about me again there. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. Let's just go down. I want to go down to, like, when I started the stream to, like, actually see the order these came in. Okay, I think that's it. Yep, I think that's it. Okay. So, let's see what James said about me while I was literally on my stream. But in contrast to the many, many videos in which my deranged stalker flagrantly violates terms of service, there's also an incredible number of clips where she talks like she believes she was involved. What? James is saying that I believed I was in a romantic relationship with him. Is this kind of like when I say I'm in an internet relationship with Sophie Lewis? Is that what we're talking about here? Let's actually listen to the clip. What did I actually say? Because if you'll remember, James was caught in this speech stealing shit from me yet again. So let's see what I actually said. It's like it's like, you know what it is? It's like when you're in a relationship. It's like you're in a relationship and there was a time when that relationship was good. And then something happened, there was a fight or something, and then the relationship got bad. And all you want is to go back to the good relationship. All you want is to regain that beautiful synergy that happened at the beginning of the relationship when it was still like young love and there were still butterflies in the stomach and all that. That's all you want to go back to, but there's been something that has disrupted that relationship and you're desperate to get back. And then the person you're in the relationship with gives you a glimmer of hope. and you're like, holy shit, can we just go back to when it was good? Because when it was good, it was really good. Like, we were in love. There was butterflies in the stomach. We were having amazing sex. Like, it was awesome. We had so much fun, and we just want to go back to that good place. And they give you a glimmer of hope, like one night you go out on a date night and you get drunk and you have really fucking great sex or something, or there's like a really good conversation and you guys are having a great time. And then the next morning, it all goes back to the way it was and you start fighting again. Because the relationship is over. And maybe you had one last grasp that maybe it could be recovered, but no, you both changed, you both become different people. And you have to accept that. James gave us that glimmer. He gave us a glimmer for a moment, and then he ripped it away. That's an analogy, you moron! That's a fucking analogy. He's just reposting whatever the psycho gives him to repost without even thinking about him. James took that seriously. Okay, James. It feels silly for me to even respond to this, to say, James, there are people on the internet that I actually call my internet boyfriend or girlfriend. I have actually recorded an entire podcast about how much I'm in love with my internet girlfriend, Sophie Lewis. Again, I continue to look at Sophie as a role model and an example, because Sophie, even though she's an abolish the family socialist and she likes to yell at me every time I try to talk to her, Sophie, at least I think, has a sense of humor about these things, because even though we A-log Sophie's content constantly, we watch it and we make fun of it, we call her crazy, and we still have like this I still say that she's my internet girlfriend and my one true internet relationship, because Sophie has never failed me. Sophie has never failed me. Yup, we talked about, Big Tech was my internet boyfriend for a while. And I mean, that was actually, that he and I were actually talking. This was Big Tech was like a little bit above Nick. Do you guys remember back when Nick Fuentes was my internet boyfriend for like half an hour? Do you guys remember that? Like, after Nick said that he loved me on his stream when it was just like, it was just Twitter banter, but like Nick Fuentes, this is what happened. Nick Fuentes became my Twitter boyfriend for about half an hour. And then Big Tech became my internet boyfriend. And Big Tech and I were talking, like, we were actually like talking. And he was teaching me stuff. And so that was a little bit of a weird thing, because it was like, we're playing a game publicly, but we're also playing a game privately. I'm not saying anything romantic happened, because it didn't. I'm just saying it's a step above Sophie. Sophie and I don't actually talk. And Big Tech and I did. And we streamed together. And we had kind of like a fun back and forth going on for a while. That was an internet relationship of sorts, such as it was, I suppose. But James, I was literally just making an analogy. There are many people I've actually said are my internet boyfriend or girlfriend on the internet. You have never been one of them, bro. You want to know why? Because you're no fucking fun. Sophie at least is fun. Sophie at least sometimes, not always, she gets a little socialist sometimes. Sophie at least sometimes has a sense of humor. Big Tech had a sense of humor. Big Tech was the one who called himself my internet boyfriend before I even said anything. He was the one that came up with that. Nick Fuentes had a fucking sense of humor. Nick Fuentes and I were bantering back and forth on Twitter. That's how that whole thing started. But James, I've never called you my internet boyfriend, bro. I can't believe I have to explain this. I've never actually done that because you have no sense of humor, bro. It's not fun. It's not a fun game to play. So I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry to disappoint you, James, but I never saw you in a romantic light. It was just a joke. That's all it was. And honestly, James is starting to come across, I said this on Twitter, James is starting to come across as a little bit of like a scorned kind of person in regards to me. Because I feel like James, I almost feel like James is starting to like actually sexually harass me, because James keeps tweeting over and over and over again that I wanted to have sex with him when I didn't. And that's starting to get a little weird. This is like James keeps saying, you wanted to have sex with me. And I go, no, I didn't, James. He goes, yes, you did. I go, no, dude, I swear I really did. He goes, yes, Carlin, you actually wanted to have sex with me. It feels a little rapey, if I'm honest about it. And I'm like, feels a little inappropriate. Feels a little bit like sexual harassment that you keep making these claims about me, James. A little bit. And honestly, it feels a little bit scorned loverish because... I don't know, bro. Did you actually want to fuck me? Like, I really hope not, but like, it's starting to get weird. It's starting to get weird because I don't know why you keep saying these things that are obviously not true if you're not projecting some sort of feeling. It's weird, James. It's weird. You should cut that out because I'm starting... It's weird, and it's uncomfortable, and I don't like it. James also tweeted, and then there's this stuff. I mean, that's just funny. That's just funny. Just funny. Come on. Maybe what actually happened is that this hit a little bit too close to home. Maybe this is just a little bit, there's a reason that this got under Jimmy's skin. I didn't anticipate that this was going to get under his skin this badly, but obviously this did. And maybe just a little bit too much because maybe it, struck a nerve. Pun intended. All right, James. Well, I'm really glad that you were tweeting about me again. Whatever. We're going to do queer punk documentary tomorrow, so come back at 5 p.m. tomorrow. We're going to watch a documentary about queer and punk and maybe some other stuff too. But we do have that other documentary about queer and punk to watch, and I really want to do it. And so tomorrow is Friday for happy hour. Come back. We're going to watch queer punk documentary at 5 p.m. and it's going to be awesome. And we're going to have beer. And that will be awesome too. And go watch Nick Fuentes tonight. Go watch Young Nicholas. If you've never seen him, you should watch him. If you don't like him, that's fine. You don't have to agree with him. But I really hope that people will give him a chance if you haven't already. Because even though Nick is wrong about DEI, he is wrong about DEI. We still love him. And we still want to support him. And we hope that one day Nick will be right about DEI. And, you know, it takes time. It's all right. He doesn't have to be right 100% of the time. All right, guys, that's all I've got. I'll see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. Take care. Have a good one. We'll see you soon. Bye.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.